What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Truth and Transparency Saturday. We're going to use our brains. We're going to do some research. This is Idaho4 Bryan Kohberger's relationship with 1260 Walenta. Welcome. Whoa. All right. First things first. The date that the police allegedly wanted to do a quote-unquote timed run through the house was on November 21st, 2022. But this report was not written up until July 26, 2023. And so what could you have possibly known by 11/21/2022 that you were adamant that you needed to see if this could be done in no time at all? Okay. So that's one of the things. Now, we're going to go to Jack Showalter's interview, because what we notice on this body, or not body cam, but you're going to see on the right side them walk into the picture of getting to the grub truck. And then this basically goes until you can see Jack Showalter. He's walking off to the right. They're in the car and driving off. How long does this take? When did Kaylee really text Eric to say, hey, come pick us up? We're going to get a ride. The reason this is important is because according to, now the only person that should matter here is nobody's information matters more than Jack Showalter in terms of what the plan was. Okay. Everybody out there was saying that they were going to go to John's Alley. Okay. And something that I want to look into is the language that Jack Showalter uses. Okay. So when you go to the Idaho State Police reports and you go to actually his interview, one of his interviews, which is actually report number 1, John Showalter. Okay. Here we go. On Saturday night, November 12th, and into Sunday morning, November 13th, at the end of the game day, people went out to the bars. Showalter ran into Mogan at the corner club. Mogan and Gonsalves were going to leave the bar to go to John's Alley and asked Showalter if he wanted to go with them. On the way to John's Alley, Mogan and Gonsalves decided to get food at the grub truck instead. Okay, so first question is where is John's Alley from where Corner Club would be? And do they attempt to walk to John's Alley if it's not in the same direct path, and then turn around at some point? When was this decision made? Is John's Alley basically on the way from walking from Corner Club to the grub truck, where it was like, we're just going to pass this place up and then continue to walk to the grub truck, and we're just going to get our food there, and we're going to get an Uber ride home, right? Because think of all of this. If, like, when was the decision made? On the walk or right before they left the bar? When was the decision made? Because if you're Jack Showalter and you're like, okay, well, I wanted to go to John's Alley, so if they left the bar, why wouldn't he just, okay, I'm going to John's Alley, see you guys later? He continues to walk with them to the grub truck, right? So again, I want to read this one more time. All right. So Saturday night, November 12th, and into this is not his language. This is the written report. Now on the way, he says Saturday night, November 12th, in the written report, into Sunday morning, November 13th. At the end of the game day, people went out to the bars. Showalter ran into Mogan at the corner club. Mogan and Gonsalves were going to leave the bar to go to John's Alley. So that means he had that impression they're going to leave the bar to go. That means he was not under the impression they were going to the grub truck when they left the bar, if I was to read this. And asked Showalter if he wanted to go with them. On the way to John's Alley, that's when this decision was made. Okay? On the way to John's Alley, Mogan and Gonsalves decided to get food at the grub truck instead. Okay. So, interesting, right? Next, Showalter was at the grub truck with them, but was hanging out in the back because he was not getting any food. Someone in a silver sedan picked up Mogan and Gonsalves. He assumed it was one of their friends. Showalter, obviously he's wrong about the color of the vehicle, unless he's considering like silver, like a dark silver, but obviously it's a darker vehicle. Someone in a silver sedan picked up Mogan and Gonsalves. He assumed it was one of their friends. Showalter told Mogan to have a good night. And you can see he like looks over that way. Showalter's designated driver's shift had already ended at approximately 2 a.m. Showalter had a good coat on, so he walked home. Okay. So then here's the question. Showalter would have had to then make it a point in his own mind and head to say, hey, I'm going to, was it like we're going to go to the grub truck and then go to John's Alley? Did they realize that they didn't have that much time? John's Alley was closing at what time? Like, why would we go to John's Alley? Like, what time does John's Alley even close? How could you even say that you're going to go to John's Alley if it did close at 2? I mean, there's no time here. Like, this time is all, whack. Then comes into the picture which is, when did Eric Grower get his phone call to say, or his text message to say, hey, can you come pick us up? We're at the grub truck. And then from that moment of when he received that text message, how quickly was he there? All right. Like, remember where's Eric? And Jack Showalter never says, hey, well, can he just drop me off? I live right over there. Or I'll just ride with you guys. And they said no. I mean, I don't know. I think that's weird that if he wasn't going to go anywhere else, he would just walk and not like get a ride with them. But whatever. But again, these are 19, 20, and 21-year-olds communicating when they're drunk. And it's just like, I don't really know him. I'm not going to be like offering him to ride with us type of deal. Okay, great. So as you can see here on the right-hand side, there they are. Awesome. Then now this vehicle right here to your left, in my opinion, arrives there with two people. It's like two vehicles. Look how many people get out of this car. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the guy with the no clothes basically on, he don't know what the fuck he's doing, but he's going to be getting on the white car. Then this truck's going to leave. The white vehicle leaves. And I want to show you guys another vehicle that comes. Now this angle to me, I was just like, dude, there's like hardly any people there. Okay. This grub truck's like any other food truck that you have at any other like city. And people are downtown and they get, used to go and get like euros and people say gyros. But yeah, it's no different. So right So if you're looking at this, we're going to pay attention to the time down here. And the video starts and it's 11 minutes and 25 seconds. And let's just for easy math say, because you could see here they are. And it's 15 seconds in. So let's just say this video is 11 minutes. So they're basically at the grub truck for 11 minutes. But now you would need to go look at the grub truck and see. Remember when she starts texting, Kaylee starts texting someone at the grub truck? Basically, what I want to go ahead and do is assume, based on the evidence, is that I think we can make a pretty logical guess that that's an inference that she'd be texting Eric to say, hey, can you come get us from the grub truck, right? But I'm curious if there's any text messages in between leaving Corner Club and that of texting Eric. If she was planning on going to John's Alley, did she text anybody to say like, hey, we're not going to come, or, anything like that? Just curious. Next. So basically, if you would take the grub truck video and you're going to go in so many minutes until Kaylee makes, and it's like texting somebody, not the picture that she took, okay, because that's one that she posted to Snapchat. So when is the earliest possible timestamp that we could, associate Kaylee with texting Eric? Because I'm just curious how long it took him to get there. Because he pulls up. I want to show you this now. When he pulls up, it's not like they were waiting for him. He has to wait for them. So I want to show you guys right there. Boom. So 7 minutes and 21 seconds into them arriving, basically. Let's get rid of the 21 seconds because they don't, they get there a little bit after the 11. This video is 11 minutes and 25 seconds. So let's just go with 7 minutes. He is there within 7 minutes of them arriving. Okay. Now think about this. You're going to subtract to see when the texting begins with Kaylee to be able to even text, hey, can you come get us? All right. Or if you're walking down, can we watch that video, and how much of that video? Hold on 1 second. Okay, so you're going to have to take into account that if, let's say, she doesn't text him at all walking down, okay, but even though, according to Jack Showalter here, he says that on the way to John's Alley, Mogan and Gonsalves decided to get food at the grub truck instead. That means he is under the impression then that they are not getting food. Okay, so we can start eliminating some things. We're not going to the grub truck first and then going to John's Alley. He's not under that impression at all. He's like, hey, as far as he's concerned, the way the conversation went is we're not going to go to John's Alley. We're calling it a night. Okay, we're going to go to the grub truck. Okay. And so right then and there, when you make that decision, it's like, was there any possible texting that could have occurred with Eric on that walk before they actually get to this camera? And that's still a possibility. We would have to get some of that and see if Kaylee is texting. Also, when you go and listen to Eric's message or alleged interview, what time does Eric say that he received a text message? Like, hey, can you come pick us up? And we did that. And remember how quickly I showed you guys that he was there? And it's just like, boom, he's there. He's able to get there. Boom, boom. And so my question then would be, is if at no point in time when we're watching the grub truck video, do we see either of the girls say to him, hey, our ride's here, or hey, we have a ride. Therefore, he doesn't have to be waiting around. Like, make sure they get home okay. Okay, because that was like a big thing that he needed to, like, he was making sure they made it safely. So, boom, our ride's here. Because look at when Eric pulls up. Look at this. Eric pulls up. Now that we see this angle, okay, he then texts her, okay, and says that he's here. So like she knows that. She knows his vehicle, and at no point like is it made to John Jack Showalter, hey, I'm gonna get, or hey, look at our rides here. But look at, so he pulls up and it's at 7. Boom. Okay. And now he'll wait. Right there. That's the car I want to talk about right here. What kind of vehicle do you think that is that just pulled in? Right here. This silver one right there. It's a really tall person that got out of that car in that back seat. What are they doing? Look at this. So the driver goes right back, okay, and is looking at the car. It's like looking at, check this out. Then finally somebody else gets out from the back seat, and that person walks around and like takes a peek at that as well. There's still people like either in the back seat, standing halfway in, halfway out. And so I was curious if this was like, was this a, what are they doing? Okay, so that's the person from the front seat, driver, right there, that guy. He's the closest one out to the truck. And there's still somebody in the car. And then there's, I'm just curious what you guys, as far as what type of vehicle you think that is. Even though it's an SUV. At first, I thought it was like a hatchback, but I don't believe it is at all. I think it's an SUV, like a smaller one. And then there, Jack Showalter goes off, and he, look at that. Boom. He disappears way before. Like, as soon as you would see this, there's nothing weird about that video to me at all. I just don't think he was under the impression that they called for a ride. And then they stop it right there. And I believe that that's 1:52 and 45 seconds. Okay. But hang on. We're going to read a little bit more here. During the morning, people called him to see if he knew what was going on down the street at the homicide scene. Now, again, this is a written report. Like, any cops would be like, who called you? Why would they call you and ask you about this? Okay. So again, I would just love to actually hear this language to see who would call you. Blank didn't believe them and walked outside to see. Blank had to walk down the street to see, this is Jack Showalter, had to walk down the street to see the residence/homicide scene. There was a rumor of an unconscious person who seemed, which seemed believable. Now that would have to be before the, an unconscious person. Now remember when this, you have to also remember this interview was like 11:17. So like, then you have the mix of like the news but for him, he goes down there during the group chat between the pledge classes from the fraternities and sororities. Remember I was telling you about what Dave was telling us? How there's these big group chats in Snapchat, and pledge classes mean it's specific years. So if you were the PC of 2022, Okay, that means your freshman year, you're pledging, and that your freshman year is 2022. Okay, pledge class of 2020, pledge class of 2019. So here, he's saying that during the group chat between the pledge classes from the fraternities and sororities, it's all plural, kids realized people were missing and something more than a person passed out might have happened. Most of his chats are via Snapchat, just like Dave said. Some of the family members of the victims started letting people know about the homicide before the news did. Now, before the news did or before the vandal alert? Like, what are we talking about? Then, Showalter had heard a lot of people were packing up and leaving. Showalter felt jumpy even leaving his apartment and walking out to his car. He would be able to do his classes online, so he packed up the next morning. He had only been to the residence where the homicides took place maybe once. When he did go there, he was pretty sure it was all different people living there. He had heard there was a party there earlier that day that some of his friends went to. Showalter went to the corner club by himself because he had friends who went there and worked there. Curious to know who Jack Showalter's friends were that worked there. Showalter, Mogan, and Gonsalves were the only ones in their group who left the corner club and went to the grub truck. Of the victims, only Mogan and Gonsalves were out at the bar. So anybody, when they're saying that Ethan or Xana would have been at the corner club, according to him, he's like, those are the only people that were at the bar. Showalter believed Ethan and Xana were still underage. Showalter thought the car in front of their house looked similar to the one who picked them up that night. It seemed like a friend that picked them up, not a random person. And I'm going to tell you why he felt that. Because he saw that one of them got in the front seat. That's why I would say that. Okay. People usually use designated drivers from their fraternity/sororities. He thought maybe Xana or Ethan might have been, picking up Mogan or Gonsalves. And now that's interesting to me. Because then when he makes that comment, it's almost like, did he see somebody else in the car with that's bizarre to me. Showalter doesn't usually go to parties. He usually goes to the bar. Again, he had heard a rumor that there was a party at the victim's residence earlier. Xana sometimes would get a little crazy with partying and redacted, and I think that word says potentially drugs or coke. Mogan just uses alcohol. That's why I believe that. Because the next sentence is this person just uses alcohol. That's what leads me to believe that redacted is in some type of word drugs. Kaylee, he thought just drank alcohol only. Again, he doesn't remember meeting Kaylee prior to that night. After the incident, he heard rumors of Kaylee having a stalker. So interesting to me because where he heard those rumors from, that would be the news. Any girl who belonged to the redacted sorority should know about the stalker information, he says. And now that would be anybody that's in her, saying her sorority should know about the stalker. Very interesting that he would have any, if he doesn't know Kaylee, I wouldn't even have any comments about that. I wouldn't know anything about that. But basically what he's telling us is that he's spoke to somebody from that sorority, in my opinion. And if you would go and you would read more into these interviews, somebody that used to live in that house who's from Boise and that was interviewed told the investigators that she wanted to put an end to these rumors, that she basically knew two of the people and that they would never have done this and blah, blah, blah. And so that's one of the people, in my opinion, who lived in that house the year before with Maddie, who was interviewed. And so that's where I believe Jack Showalter is getting his information from. Again, that's me speculating though, but logically makes sense. Okay. Now, Okay, I want to bring this up now. We're going to talk about what Dylan told police in an interview with Idaho State Police, Gooch, from Report 3. When Gooch says that she said Kaylee had a balcony and she remembered looking at the pictures in the news and Kaylee's curtains were all messed up. She thought the distance of the balcony to the ground may have been too much and brought too much attention if that is how the suspect made entry into the house through Kaylee's bedroom. Okay. When asked if she checked the house for anyone else when she initially came home from that night with this person, that Lakeland girl, and she was asked if she had to unlock the front door, and she advised that she believed she had to unlock the front door, but she wasn't really sure. She advised that when she first got home, she remembered the sliding door was closed, but she did not know if it was locked. She advised that when she first got home, she went to Kaylee's bedroom to let Murphy out of Kaylee's room. Remember, she didn't remember that at first, and then she adds that in. Because at first she was like, I didn't go upstairs. And then she realized, she's like, oh, wait, I did because I let Murphy out. Okay. So now we're going to get into the Murphy part. She says, Kaylee's lights were on, which makes sense if you're going to have your dog in there. Okay. And no one was in Kaylee's bedroom. Murphy came back into the house after going outside. And remember, this is when I was like flipping out. I was like, wouldn't you be asking right then and there, how did you take Murphy out? Did you take Murphy out by a leash? And remember, she does get into that. And it's like, no, Murphy doesn't have a leash. Like, so you just open up the door. Murphy just knows not to like run off. Like, come on. It doesn't make any sense. Again, Sergeant Blaker is all just about asking about the login and user name for the router for Wi-Fi at the residence, you guys. It's all he cares about. It's all he cares about. Okay. So now we're going to look at one other thing here with Dylan. Okay. Dylan described how she got home from Friday night. Okay. And she said by using an Uber from the Hi-Fi Ball to the residence, she explained that she and her roommates normally have Eric as their Uber driver, but not on the night of the 11th. And then she didn't even remember if she got an Uber or not. Okay. This was around 8:30, she explained, and she and the roommates trust Eric. She advised the party initially transitioned to the blank, but she got bored and wanted to go home. It was she, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan regarding the roommates who attended the ball. And that doesn't make any sense because I thought Kaylee was her plus one. Also, I just still find it odd that Maddie and Xana would be going to anything related to the Pi-Fi house if they drop the sorority, which Madison Moyer comes out and tells Fox News they dropped the sorority. Okay, first one to break that. So now we're going to get into the 1260 relationship here, which is Madison Moyer saying, hey, they dropped the sorority. And I'm over here like, how the fuck would they go to how would they be able to go to any type of formal event there or anywhere? Unless it was really not ever at the Pi-Fi house and somewhere else. I mean, okay. Eventually, a group from the something event transitioned to the blank and the other roommate's house. And there was a party that continued there until the early morning hours of November 12th. She requested to look at her cell phone during this point in the interview to verify the timeline. She was advised that she could look at her cell phone to provide times during the interview. She advised the only other individuals that came to the house on Friday night were blank. Initially, she said it was blank, but corrected herself to say it was this person. But this person who came to the house And this person was at their house as well. They were consuming large amounts of alcohol and playing music. She went to bed a little after 12:10 in the morning. And then added she went to bed sometime after or between 12:10 and 12:30 a.m. that morning. Again, is this Boise time or is this Moscow time? Okay, because she's reading from her cell phone, which would be off. Now, let's see. Okay. Okay. All right, let's talk about something I wrote online yesterday. Which is this. Hold on, let me use my device. Nobody wants to talk about. Remember, 2 to 4 was off limits to talk about. It was like, we're not talking about anything at that time frame. So I thought about that. And I want to read this. Oopsies. Okay. Here we go. Remember, nobody wanted to talk about anything between 2 and 4 a.m. on that day, that morning, night, whatever they want to call it. Just pretty much at 4 a.m. and then just start right there. Okay. Well, I believe that everything is relevant between 2 and 4 a.m. Everything. Context always matters. So for starters, let's see if we can get the last 4 digits of the number that Bethany talked to with on the phone at 2:53 a.m. Now, the reason this is important, when Bethany was interviewed at all phases, okay, she never mentions that she ever made a phone call or had a phone call or that she even missed a phone call at 2:53 a.m. from Madison Mogan, her roommate. They're trying to figure out timelines. And so when we go back and we would look at this would be significant. Yes, Ann Taylor used the initials MM, but now it's back on the table for me that just because she used the initials MM, okay, is that any way chance somebody else with the initials MM? Again, the reason being is because you would have your call log right there. It's opened up. She's looking at it. Okay. Bethany says that Maddie, her roommate, Mogan, and the reason that they were calling her Mogan is because there's a bunch of Maddies. So they would refer to her as her last name and they would say Mogan, 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 because there's, now what that tells me is that means that there's another Madison or possibly more Madisons that are always hanging out with them. So you're going to call these people by their last names. We did that all the time in college. We had like 4 Ashleys. In fact, 2 of my roommates out of us 6, 2 of them were Ashley. We never called them. Like my one roommate was called her last name all the time. And then the other one was called by her last name all the time. Because that's how you're like, when we're leaving notes on our big whiteboard that we had, we would never be writing Ashley dash and then whatever we had to tell them, we'd say their last names. And we could never use like even like the initials, because the Ashleys that were my roommates, guess what their last name initials were? Both of them. They were both M's. So we couldn't say AM. I mean, it was wild. But yeah, so it was like, hey, Oriani, like blah, blah, blah. You know, hey, I'm saying a last name. I would never talk to them as Ashley, ever. Very rarely. So insert then other Maddies that we've come across. And wow, not only is the Maddie that we've come across the back door neighbor, basically, where her parents, they own that house. And I'm sure she's there a hell of a lot, right? She's also at the Hi-Fi house. Then she becomes a Pi-Phi, and that's where Madison Mogen's, a sorority sister. So it's like, yeah, we're going to be using last names. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at then this, as I was continuing to read. So I find it very, very interesting that it would not cross Bethany's mind to say, oh, at 2:53, I talked to Madison Mogen. Okay, like, come on, why would you ever be leaving that out? It's just like right in front of you. It would also like trigger your memory. Unless when you're looking at your call log, the person that's showing up in your call log that's MM is not Madison Mogen. And so therefore you're not pointing that out because that's not, they're asking you about your roommates. And that's not a roommate. So Ann Taylor only used initials. And for Bethany to look at her call log and not see that she talked to Madison Mogen at 2:53 a.m. and not say this in her interviews ever is absolutely wild. 1,000%, any way you want to slice and dice it, is absolutely fucking unbelievable. Period. So I don't care which way you want to look at it. It does not matter. It's the fact that if that was in fact Madison Mogen, to not say it is ridiculous. Especially when looking at her call log or other items to get an idea of things such as a timeline. Remember, she went digging enough to find a picture with Murphy out back on the patio or in Kaylee's room, as to say she knew this is when the four of them were together. Well, that was at 2:24 a.m. Okay, that's not the most recent then, right? So 2:24 a.m. Well, I hate to break it to everybody, but 2:53 a.m. is after that. And way easier to locate that because it's just in the call log to find, because it's easily and quickly accessible just by looking at your call log, your recent call log. Next is this is new, which would lead me to think that more and more that it wasn't Maddie Mogen with the MM initials, because she didn't tell the cops about it, because it didn't have anything to do with calling or talking to her roommate, so she left it out. Or it's even worse that she wouldn't, or that she leaves it out and it really did have something to do with her roommate. That's where that she wouldn't mention that. And if the guys in Banfield, now we're going to talk about really like this explosive new timeline. So think about this. And if the guys in Banfield body cam didn't lie, and they really were at a friend's named Matt, well, it's an interesting time. Why? Well, it's an interesting time and an interesting name, because Matt Moyer, his initials are MM. His sister's initials are MM, Madison Moyer. Bethany's call with an MM at 2:53 a.m. And then here we get this body cam that goes on from the undercovers. And poof, at 2:53 a.m. at the same damn time, those dudes are on the body cameras of those undercovers, which is right after leaving Matt's house. Okay? Do you understand that when we ever watch these cameras, we always see people running and telling everybody, like, oh my God, the undercover, like when the cops arrive, they're always running and telling each other like what's going on with the cops. So now think about this. 2:53. Bethany gets a call from an MM. The people that are on the body camera at 2:53 are saying that they just left the Matt's house. Okay? Again, if they're not lying. And now you have Matt Moyer saying to the police that he left his house between 2:30 and 3 a.m. See the undercovers. They didn't know where those dudes were coming from, okay? Because they asked them, like, where are you coming from? They were in the parking lot of the Whites. If they would have seen that they were walking out of the Whites' apartments, okay, they already know where they're coming from. Because they really did not know where they were coming from, because they were down in the Whites' parking lot. So they were asking them where they were coming from because they watched them walk down those narrow, steep steps. And that's when they were trying to say like they were falling all over. Remember that? And that leads back into, you can't see, okay, you could be coming from any one of those houses back there. And also remember, people would be walking and seen on Lynn Lane camera, but never seen on 1112 camera. So think about this. When we're talking about the Lynn Lane camera, we're pointing people out. And people would come on the camera and then they would disappear. We're hearing voices from the Lynn Lane camera, okay? They would disappear to the point of they were never walking down the middle of the road on King to get to any house over there ever. But they were definitely walking towards the 1122 King Road house from the Lynn Lane cameras, right? And so it's like, okay, well, where could they have gone? Well, whatever they were doing and wherever they were walking to was always behind the cameras. And that would be in the backyards of people's houses. Or before you got to those houses, you'd have to go into the Queen Road apartments. Like, it's just, those are the only options. So when you're putting all this together and you got cars that are leaving out from the back of King Road, where the dead end is, right behind the 1122 King Road house, it's also right behind the 1260 Walenta house. So this whole time, I want to ask us all now, was the hangout session / people buying or selling shit really happening at 1260 Walenta where Matt lived? Everybody's always been on this kick that 1122 King Road had people over after like at 2 a.m. Between 2 and 3, all the voices are like, yeah, that's all coming from 1122. Really? Okay, well, let's look at what the evidence shows us. Okay, the evidence shows us that the kids get caught and they say the name Matt. 2:53, there's a phone call on Bethany's call log from an MM. Nat Moye says he's leaving. He left his house to the police in an interview between 2:30 and 3. Okay. So remember, Jack Showalter was talking about Kaylee mentioning going to another party, not just the bar. And that comes up in interview 2 with Idaho State Police, which I'm going to get to. So it's like everyone is 1000% not mentioning anything going on at 1260 Walenta. Yet the cops are watching a camera that shows vehicles driving back and forth on Walenta. So are they not mentioning 1260 Walenta on purpose and not mentioning anything to do with the dog barking because it was normal for 1260 house to have their dogs out and barking? And no one would dare call the cops on that house. Why? Because it's a special house. In fact, let's really look at these loops going and coming from the house and to the back part of Queen Apartments where the dead end is and where people would jump out of the car to walk into the backyard of 1260, just like Madison Moye says that there's this cut through right to her house. You can't park on Walenta to go to a house party. Your car you will get smashed into because it's blindside. You can't park there. Okay. So, and then let's really look at where the cars that were driving around over there are slowly going by. Well, let me tell you something. I've been there. And when you're coming from campus on Walenta to drive away from campus, and that's where we're seeing the cars on 1112 as they're driving behind on Walenta there, you have to go slower or you will miss that house on the left. You will miss it, especially when you're coming from that way. You will miss it all day, every day. You have to go slow. Or you will miss that driveway. So if we really take a look at where the cars that were driving around over there are going slow, the cars are driving very slow back and forth well on Walenta before arriving at 1260 Walenta house, which is needed over there as to not miss the house and driveway, which is easily like able to be missed heading south, which is away from campus. Also, this would explain why Paradise Ridge camera isn't catching any cars. Okay, there's 2 cameras there. There's a shop cam at the guy's house and one that's more like on the front part of his house. Okay, that camera has no sightings of anything. Even some of them where they want to say that, oh, this car just whipped the Yui. But if people were just getting dropped off or picked up at that house, then they wouldn't be seen on Paradise Ridge because they don't go that far. They are being dropped off before that or being picked up before that and then turning around right there and heading back towards campus. This is why the Linda Lane camera is completely missing from 3:30 a.m. to 4:05 a.m. The 4:20 and 41-second car speeding away isn't seen on any cameras after 1112 camera. When you see it speeding away, you guys, this is insane. It doesn't see it anywhere in any part of this whole entire town after that camera from 1112 from behind in Walenta. You know, it's fleeing away to get out of the city, allegedly. To get out of the city. But yet Chris Engel from Pullman Police Department puts in his report that there was a car sighting leaving on West Palouse River Drive. But guess when that gets put into evidence? That report is put into evidence a month and a half after the plea deal, August 14th, 2025. Where's that video? So Ann Taylor was asking for all of these different cameras from the east side, west side, south side, north side, however this person could have possibly left, okay? And she either has them and there's no car at any point in time, or I think some of these, it's like, where are they? Did you guys not go and get them? Did you guys go and get them and then bury them? But anyway, you slice and dice it, you don't have a car coming in or leaving that matches the description of suspect vehicle 1 that you say is this is the killer's car. Well, I have a news flash. Maybe because the car didn't actually leave the city. Right? Is that a possibility? If you don't have that car leaving out of the city or coming into the city, that it didn't come in or leave, like it's actually a city car from Moscow. Like, aha, newsflash. Like, that's what you would call a logical inference. This is why Linda Lane cameras, in my opinion, though, guys, is completely missing from 3:30 a.m. to 4:05 a.m. Also, there is a sighting at 4:13 on 1125 Ridge Road. There's a vehicle that comes on that camera, and I want to know what it is. We're going to get it. But remember, the police who weren't in on the mess, remember, the way this would all work is that the police who weren't in on the mess, if you think this is a shady job or corrupt job, not everybody can be shady and corrupt. Okay, so there's going to be some people that are better than others at their job. There's also going to be some people that aren't like that at all, aren't in on it. You can't, it's not this whole force of 120 officers would be that way. Sorry, that's just not logical to me. But it's those original cops, though, that weren't. Think about this now. Since everybody can't be in on that, right? There's going to be some cops, and remember these cops that originally believed that there was actually people in the car that had sped away that actually they thought that had information. Hey, we're interested in talking to people or person that was in that car speeding away, you know, in close proximity to the house. Like that's how it was, you know. And now think about this, ready? That would be completely opposite of everything that when the original BOLA went out, hey, Pullman Police Department, other surrounding areas, right? You guys are be on the lookout for this white Elantra, but you are not to go up and talk to this person. You're just supposed to get us the plate, the location of the car, shit like that, a VIN number, the time, right? But whatever you do, do not approach the vehicle. Do not talk to anybody. That's not what you're supposed to do. Okay. But then here and would see all of that stuff, that be on the lookout in those instructions, that's complete opposite of what the instructions were on the 7th of December. Why? Because you have like different people actually doing different things and not in the know, and who actually approved for that even to be put out to the public on December 7th? After that car speeds away at 4:20 and 40 seconds, a car leaves from the same area just minutes later from the Queen Road Apartments at 4:23. But that car never came in and did like any loop and then just left, right? So I want you guys to think about it like this now. At 4:20 and 40 some seconds, okay, you got a car that's speeding away from the area. Then just a couple minutes later, same thing. Not a car that's like speeding away, but you have somebody that's getting into an SUV and driving away. And then here the cops go a couple months later and talk to a girl. And they get this girl. They ask this girl, hey, she's like, I was working. I wasn't even here. Could this be your car? She's like, I was working. Well, did you go home for any reason? I mean, I don't know. I could have went home to check on my cat. What? Well, guess what? The car that's actually drove off at 4:23, somebody got in it. That car had been parked there before midnight. So this wasn't somebody that left the job that she went to work at from 9 to 6 or 10 to 6, during the, third shift. Left, come home, check on her cats, and then left. Like, that's not able to happen at all. But the police, why are the police giving a story for this vehicle that leaves at 4:23 and some change? Well, because the real person and where they were really coming from, we can't have that out there. But why? That's definitely not that girl. Unless she, I don't know, checked on her cat at 11:55 and then just like, I'm not going to go back to work until 4:23. Okay. It's all just a bunch of crap. So again, so we have to remember that after the car speeds away at 4:20 and 40 seconds, a car leaves from the same area just minutes later, Queen Road apartment area, whom the cops assigned to another person erroneously. They knew it wasn't this broad. Why would you ever do that? Because there's only one answer for that. We can't really know who that person is and where they were really coming from. And everybody has always said that, oh, it's Dylan in a Pathfinder and she's leaving with the dog. Nope. Sure isn't. Sure the fuck is not. No, it's somebody, in my opinion, that was, what is Madison Moyer Drive? It's somebody that was at, in my opinion, 1260 house. And that's why the dogs are all barking in that backyard. People are coming and going. The dogs are back there. All the circumstances, okay. I'm sorry. Again, well, I believe it's to hide the real person and where the person was truly leaving from at 4:23 a.m. It's like someone left the Moyers who parked over by Queen and who had been parked in that spot well before 12, midnight. So yeah, it could have been the person who left to check on their cat. And so it couldn't have been that person. We already know that. But all these circumstances surrounding the entire incident needs to be done from the beginning. And we need to forget everything that's been framed for us by the incompetent investigation, by this ridiculous probable cause. Like, none of it is accurate, but they knew it wasn't accurate. And this whole time we've been just focusing on what's been going on in the timeline of the 1122 King Road house. Why does nobody want to talk about 2 to 4? And that we just went to bed, everything was fine. Okay. So, woo, my firecrackers in this piece. What is up, Karen? Hey, baby girl, so awesome to be here for a live show. After almost last been paralyzed from a minor. Oh my gosh. Had to have a 5 hours. My geez. Oh my God. Are you okay? Flying high on meds. Hell yeah, Carrie, you're the best. Thank you so much. She said flying high on meds, but baby girl, I'm here for you. Woo woo. As long as Karen's flying high, we should all be flying high. Okay, so now check this out. Can you believe? So after my latest, I went to BW3s. All that's not possible. So I want to get to this part right here. Next we have, okay. So let's go back to this. Ready? Dylan says, all right. So is there a chance that whatever Dylan was witnessing, ready for this bombshell? If nobody wants to talk about 2 to 4, nobody wants to talk about 2 to 4. And this whole time it's like been like, well, what do you mean you don't want to talk about 2 to 4? But let's go ahead and say that Bethany and Dylan go to bed and they really like aren't using their phones again until 3:51 a.m. Okay. Dylan's using her phone to save a contact at 3:51. Would love to know. We're going to find out what that is. Let's take them at their word. Okay. Well, is there a chance then? Ready for this? This is going to be like, whoa, oh my God, maybe. If the person, okay, that Dylan would have allegedly saw, let's say that she sees this masked person, which we've done the math, we look at everything, when that text would have happened, when she's talking about any of that, okay, 1000% the person that left speeding off at 4:20, like, she sees this person after that happens. After the car sped off. Okay, so this is like, you cannot argue this. She didn't see the masked man before 4:20 and 40 seconds, which matters. Okay? Why does it matter? Well, because if the person speeding off is already gone, then that's not who Dylan could have seen, who's ever driving or in that vehicle. She would have had to see somebody after that, or she's talking about something with Bethany in these texts, okay? Because Bethany's call to her literally happens 2 minutes after the dog is going crazy, berserk barking, right? And it was Bethany that was alerting, Dylan to these barking, in my opinion. So Dylan says, in quotes, the third time she opened the door and she said her vision was blurry or fuzzy, but she advised she saw a figure of someone that was dressed in all black and they were masked, okay? And he was holding an item of what she initially perceived was a vacuum. A vacuum. But she said that did not make sense to her. Well, it makes perfect sense, actually. It truly makes perfect sense. She described the suspect as not being muscular. That's when she goes into that. She advised he had to have heard her call Kaylee and Xana. And she thought he would have had to have heard her calling for them. Like, not only just calling them in like their phones, like, but calling out. Like, this person had to have heard me. Had to have heard me. And she was confused as to why he did not come to her room. I have a question for you guys. Ready? In order to say that you saw a vacuum, in order to say, why didn't he come to my room? Okay. That means that where she was physically located would have been in her room, because why wouldn't she go to my room? Okay. Like, that's where I'm physically located. That's where she's located when she sees this vacuum. Okay. Or what she perceives to be a vacuum, but she just thinks that doesn't make any sense. She described the item the suspect was holding, which she advised was like a cylinder. And she remembered a cop talking about a bow. So she was trying to ascertain if what she saw was in fact shaped like a bow. Well, this is now our question. According to Mr. Blaker himself, Dylan wasn't taking anybody's calls. What police officer did she ever overhear saying the words bow, like a bow and arrow? When did she ever hear this? And why wouldn't they ask her, wait, when did you hear this? What cop? Like, okay, a cop when? Like, when? Where were you? Okay. Blaker says that Dylan was not like talking to him during the Bethany interview on the 16th that he flew out to to Nevada to have. Okay. Now, either he is lying to Bethany to see if she'll, I don't know, say something to her, like, get something out of her that he was looking to get. I have no idea. The only thing I can think of is that to see how much they're talking, how much Dylan and Bethany are talking. So you get Bethany to say, oh, well, I just talked to her and she, blah, blah, blah. And I do believe it's something like that to find out how much they're talking, because there was a meeting that was set up. Obviously, Detective Gooch knew about it. She was going to be there the next day in Boise after he flies back from Nevada, from Reno. So if you're testing somebody like that, that means you don't believe what they're saying. You're trying to catch them in a lie. You're trying to catch them in something. And I'll tell you this, Victoria Gooch didn't like it. Victoria Gooch didn't like it. Okay. So, if Kaylee's phone stops making any movement because she goes upstairs at 2:53 or at 2:52, she makes those last calls to Jack. So let's say that then her phone stops moving at like 3 or 3:05, okay, with steps. Then when she would have, with what Dylan is saying that she had heard, if she's saying, I heard, the dog go up, Kaylee going up, they're dancing in that room, but then they're going up. Now she's looking at her phone and she's trying to tell the detectives that, yeah, when that happened, it was like, now it's time for me to go to bed type of thing. Okay. So that would have been like way earlier, because you have to really look at when Kaylee's last movements was. And if she's hearing Kaylee's voice, it's because it was way earlier. Okay. It's way earlier. And if people are going and coming from the back of 1260 Walenta and using that to get back and forth, someone's going and coming back and forth through that backyard, okay, a dog would be going berserk. A car gets there at 4:19 or at 4 or a light comes on at 4:14. Then all of a sudden the dog starts barking out over there. And then immediately when a car comes back at 4:49 and some change, within 2 seconds, barks are over with. And then that car leaves up out of there at 4:55. I'm just throwing out. How about this? Ready? Where are all of Murphy's dog prints running through the snow? Okay. Where are all the paw prints? If Murphy's out back barking like a crazy person, Where are all the paw prints of Murphy running through the snow, left and right, going berserk? Where's that at? It's not there, is it? Where is there a dog trampling through all in the backyard? What about then when the dog comes back inside? After the dog would have been in the snow back there and has to come back into the, as Hitler wants to say, the dog just left the same way that it came in, the slider. Okay, sounds good. The slider, according to Dylan, was closed, and that's what made her go downstairs, right? Yeah, no. Remember, there was no written report ever once for this living live document. No report in real time that was ever typed in for anyone to ever to be able to say that this is when they believe certain things. Okay, so all we have is the living live document as is on like the 23rd. Okay, to be that living live document. When you come into a house and you have your wet snow, like your boots go through the wet snow and you get into your house and you're just walking all through, what's it going to leave? Okay, it's going to leave some marks. Okay, there are no pictures of not a single one, anything in that house showing a zoomed in picture of Murphy's paw prints anywhere in that motherfucking house to show and to support the claim that Murphy is the dog that's barking outside and went out and moved like far away and then came back and tracked in any type of, dirt. Nothing. Now, what are the odds that Simon says, Simon says, at 417, and then boom, 417 goes into the probable cause. I'm going to read this next little quote here. Okay. Okay. At 422, I'm sorry. She advised he would have been approximately 3 inches away from her, and she believed she saw him walking out the back sliding glass door. Okay. He had looked at her before walking out the back door. She was not certain if he could see her whole body or just her head. That means that she would have walked out of her room. Okay. And she walks out of her room and she has to get to at least a point where she's like peeking around to like see. Okay. So then you would start taking different vantage points of where this could have potentially been. At 4:22 a.m., then Dylan corrected her time and stated at 4:23 a.m. She advised that she texted blank Bethany and they conversed about someone wearing all black. Right there at 4:23. So then guess what I went and did? Do you guys know that there is not a 4:23 text? It's not technically at 4:23. So I'm curious when she wants to switch that up and say at 4:23. Go back and look at my lovely design there. So when she says that she's discussing someone wearing all black, this would have been after seeing him right there, because like this is her recollection. After seeing him, so at 4:23, do you understand that cannot be the car that drove away then at 4:20? It's undisputed. Undisputed. And all that needed to happen here is these officers didn't give a fuck what this was going to look like and how they were possibly going to present this at trial. But at 4:23, because of what they woke up to, what Bethany woke up to was a dog that they did not know barking crazy. Okay? Because if Bethany woke up to a dog that was barking that was Murphy, this is logic right here. This is a inference from, come on. Hey, what is that dog? You hear that dog barking? What's going on? Not, do you hear Murphy barking? Like, where's Murphy? Okay? Because then you would be able to go let Murphy back in the house. If Murphy was just right there and Murphy was locked out. Okay? You'd be able to bring back in Murphy. Okay? But the dog barking all the way until 4:49, 4:47 a.m., you guys, they would have been able to solve that problem like within minutes. They couldn't solve the barking problem because it wasn't fucking Murphy. Okay? That is logic. You would have been able to solve that problem and bring Murphy in. And so what they did is they made that become Murphy. This is why the girls had never, it was not Murphy that was barking. And the girls knew it, but then they were like thinking to themselves, well, I think they got talked, this all took on a life of its own. Okay. So ready? So it all originated from this other dog that was barking. Bethany calls. Okay. And she's so confused. Why was really Dylan confused? Well, only Dylan can really answer that, right? If you want to walk her through, like anybody normally would have like walked somebody through, like, here are your messages. Let's really walk through like what, like they did with motherfucking Molly. Why didn't they do that with Dylan? Why didn't they really try to figure out when these text messages were? Because then you would have been like, yeah, that, and they knew. You guys, do you understand? I think early on, they knew that 420 car speeding away based off of what Dylan's saying, that couldn't have been the person that Dylan saw because that person's already gone if you think that person was in the house. Because Dylan says it right here. At 4:22 a.m., then Dylan corrects herself and says at 4:23 a.m., she advised that she texted Bethany and they conversed about someone wearing all black. And Bethany said something to the effect of, what the fuck? Why is Xana wearing all black? Dylan explained that she was not certain if she had been dreaming this or if this was real. Dylan explained that she saw the suspect holding something that she believed to be a cylinder shape and was also shaped like a triangle at the bottom of the cylinder shape. She advised the suspect was approximately 3 inches away from her, and he looked at her but was walking out the sliding door when she saw him, which was after that car left. That car has nothing to do with this homicide. She said she saw his eyebrows, and that was the first time that we ever hear the eyebrows comment. At approximately 4:23 a.m., she texted Bethany to tell her that she saw a masked suspect in their house. That's not how it actually said at all. Okay, but that's the language. So right there, at approximately 4:23 a.m., she texted Bethany to tell her that she saw a masked suspect in their house, which would have been after the 420 car is gone, and they all knew this. All of it. Dylan advised when she left her bedroom, she looked down the hallway to see Xana's bedroom and could see Xana lying on her back in her underwear. But she thought at the time Xana was passed out. Now think about all of this now. The guy wasn't a threat to her because she didn't see a knife. The guy wasn't covered in blood. The guy had some object that looked like a vacuum. It's like, what the hell? Then she's even talking about a firefighter. Okay. But yet she's freaked out. Don't know why. She doesn't call 911. Nobody calls 911. Nobody calls a noise complaint in. Nothing. Do people not call noise complaints over there because the dog normally barks? Now, they have 17,000 videos of all the different nights leading up to that night. What was normal in that area at that time? What would normally occur? You don't even need to ask any witnesses that. Go and listen to the previous nights and go to the weekends. You can go all the way back. Like, it can go back a pretty long time. Why is Simon G so adamant to tell the police that the dog that was barking was Murphy when it wasn't? Think about that. I've never heard that dog bark like that before. Those were his words in the police report that, well, I should say those are Vargas's words. He called the police right away, this Simon G, to tell them. He called dispatch. Did they never give Victoria Gooch any of this cameras to say like how long this dog was barking? That's a big part of Ann Taylor's problem is they lied to us, or they lied in the probable cause and made it seem like the dog had just barked at 4:17, but nowhere did they say that the dog continued to bark until 4:49, which is huge, which is big, right? Because it's like the barking has nothing to do with 1122. That's not coming. It's not that dog. And so this all revolves around a timeline. You are using things that you're making up at that house that are occurring. And Dylan and whatever she had seen or heard and is so like out of it about, and these are just so inconsistent, but you're marrying this whole story. Why? The house that called in the noise complaints is the same house where the dog was actually the one that was barking all night. And Simon passed off that barking to Murphy. Why would you do that? Victoria Gooch says something really, really big. And she says that, are you sure like all these lights were on? Because normally someone wouldn't leave lights on, and like it's usually the opposite way because they don't want to be detected, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, all the lights were on. Dylan said that she was certain at 3:11 a.m., which she thought discussion might have been 2:11 a.m. because Moscow time. She was certain that Kaylee, Maddie, Dylan, and her, that they were all in the house. You know, that's when she had texted Eric. She was not certain about Xana and Ethan because she does not know when they came home. Now remember this whole thing that there's somebody here, that comment like, hey, there's somebody here. That was a memory that she had, in my opinion, that Dylan had. That was a memory. And it was when her and Murphy, after her and Murphy went upstairs and all that stuff. That would have been way earlier. That would have been way earlier. Because that is a memory of hers. That she heard Keely and the dog go upstairs Okay. Hearing Kaylee say that there's someone here. Okay. And then she's hearing this, that, and the other. But then she says that she hears someone screaming out or that somebody ran down. And they thought that they ran into like over by like the they heard like a guy say, "It's okay, I'm here to help you," type of thing. Could that in any way, shape, or form be somebody going there? Because people would come and go there all the time, okay? And they just enter in, they just walk in the back door, and somebody entered in and went upstairs, saw what they saw, okay, and ran downstairs crying and oh my God, like what the fuck did I just see? Because they walked in on it, okay? And then so here Dylan is hearing that because that happens way after the fact. But why would she think it would have been Kaylee crying, right? But no one's ever thought about this. No one's ever thought about this could have all happened earlier, right? People come and go out of that house all the time. Well, what if somebody went in, like a friend, people like went there and they actually like were going over like hang out, right? Or and they come in and they go and they walk, somebody goes upstairs and sees what they see and freaks out, runs out of there. Also, could that have been Dylan? If Bethany calls her to say, "Hey, do you hear this dog barking? Like, what the hell? What is that? Whose dog is that?" Because it's not Murphy, right? And then I don't know. She gets up, goes upstairs, sees what I mean. Holy shit! And then you're trying to figure out what the fuck happened, and you're trying to retrace your steps, but nobody actually like sat down to do any of that with them. They wouldn't Dylan's steps help you? Wouldn't Dylan's and then also like the victim's phones help all of that? How could Dylan have ever heard anybody running down steps, like her thinking that would have been Kaylee, if there are no movements on Kaylee's phone after, let's just say, 3:00 in the morning? The cops would know that that doesn't seem like that can't be at all. And they're looking at their phone. Then they're looking at the only person's phone that has like steps, like after, let's say, 3 a.m. was, let's say, like it was Xana's phone. But they waited and they waited and they waited to be able to use any and everything that Bethany and Dylan said at the end when they went ahead and just put it in the way that they wanted to. Once they got the name Bryan Kohberger is when they went ahead and just made it that this was the timeline, that this would be the narrative. And that's not how you do things. Sorry. When asked if any of her roommates told her about prior incidents involving anything that concerned them, and she advised that Kaylee told them, blank and the other roommates, Dylan and the other roommates, about an incident a month prior when she was outside with Murphy about a subject who had been watching her. This subject was in the apartments above the girls' residence. You guys, that is hearsay upon hearsay. Like, that is Dylan trying to remember something and remember a story and to give it like how she believes that it was said. That's ridiculous. Now, let me tell you how ridiculous that is. That's ridiculous. Don't you think if any of this stuff was accurate with like she's giving these dates of when things could have potentially happened? Hey, we went to Winco when this happened. Then we go to a 3 or 4, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, all the roommates went to Starbucks together. And when they got home, their front door was wide open. Okay, go and look at when the Starbucks was bought. Look at all of their debit cards. Somebody had to purchase that with a card. What's the date of the Starbucks incident? When the door was just wide open, okay? Was that one of the times, and that's early in the morning, okay, was that one of the times that Bryan Kohberger was in the area? They want to say he was in the area. If it was, you guys, that would have been like, that's a huge circumstantial situation. Nope, but they can't. They can't link any of these things to, it's just wild. Okay, so then I want to move to this interview, which is interview number 5. Interview 5. Now, this is Adam. Okay. Adam, what time would Adam have gotten home from working at the bar? Okay. Like, when does Adam get home from working at the bar? So he never heard from Kaylee about anyone stalking him. Okay. Okay. They said that they were going to go to John's Alley and were trying to get some friends to go up there with them. They didn't end up going there, though. Okay. They didn't end up going to John's Alley. How does Adam know that? He didn't know where they were before they showed up at blank. He had seen Xana at some parties, blah, blah, blah. Da, da, da. There is an apartment complex behind the victim's house that has a lot of sketchy people in it. They are registered sex offenders living in it. That place is behind blank, blank apartments. There are windows facing the girls' house, and it's adjacent to it. It's a brown brick apartment complex. Now, this is the girl. I called and arranged. This is now interview 6, which is Adam's girlfriend. Okay. She said, blank is still in the sorority, but does not live in the sorority house. This is this Zoe girl. She lives in a house which overlooks the backyard of the Gonsalveses, of Gonsalveses. This girl describes how her room looks directly to the sliding door of Gonsalves' house. I asked this girl if she was around the victims the night of the homicide. Adam's girlfriend was with her friends, blank and blank, and began their night at John's Alley. Blank took a phone call from from Kaylee to come down to the corner club. Kaylee's like, come here. This girl and her friends went to the corner club. This girl friends slowly left from there and went back to their house. Kaylee and Maddie are still at the club with blank. Kaylee and Maddie were planning on going to John's Alley to continue the evening. Blank was talking to another friend and noticed that Kaylee and Maddie had left. This girl went to the grub truck and believes she was about a half hour behind Maddie and Kaylee because they were all watching that shit, okay? This girl even had the same Lyft driver as Maddie and Kaylee. Now, how would she even know that, right? Because they're all talking. So if she's 30 minutes behind them, that's why I'm trying to tell you that this is the person that's basically outing the fact that Eric Grower, he had to have dropped off this girl who lives directly behind Maddie and Kaylee, and it can look right into the sliding glass door. This girl gets a ride from Eric Grower. When Eric says, I didn't go back to that area, this is a report that I'm using that says you are a fucking liar. Okay? This girl is putting you there. Now, Once you would have found out where this girl lived, but see, this is how they divided this shit up, and you didn't ask appropriate questions. This girl should have been asked, did you hear a dog barking? So let's see if that ever comes up. Sergeant Cortez asked if she had any further contact with the girls, and she didn't. Blank and Blank fell asleep in Blank's room. So this is the interview where the two girls are sleeping in the same room. She went to Blank's room for the night. She thought she remembered hearing music, but was not sure. She would have been able to hear if they were having a party. Hang on one second. Okay. So their circle is oh, I'm sorry. back over here. She would have heard. She would have been able to hear if they were having a party. Blank, this girl, got a video from her boyfriend. Or I'm sorry. From her friend, Blank. So listen to this now. This girl receives a video from Blank of Blank on her bed snoring. And that's like right there, boom. And why this would be important is what this girl is basically saying is that somebody recorded somebody in that house, okay, and they were snoring on their bed. And that got sent, like, I don't know if it was like a Snapchat. I don't know if it was just sent. You know how you'll do that to people, like, here I'm recording you, and then we'll send it out and we'll write something, like, whatever. This girl said that she got a video from her friend, and she names the friend. So she got a video from her friend Blank. And what the video is of, it's of Blank on her bed snoring. This girl, meaning Adam's, who I believe is Adam's girlfriend, tried to listen to the video to see if she could hear anything in the background, and she couldn't. Like, she was like, I was even listening, and so the police would want that video because she was trying to listen to if she could hear anything in the background of like a party going on. Okay. And she's saying, I couldn't hear anything. Well, you would be like, I need all that, right? Sergeant Cortez asked if she was aware of where they were before the corner club. Like, he doesn't say, I'm going to need that, but this girl thought that they might have come from their house. Thursday night, Gonsalves wanted them to go out. Saturday night, everyone was out. She said the girls usually like getting ready together. So Sergeant Cortez asked if she was aware of where they were Friday. Doesn't matter. Now here, Sergeant Cortez asked if she knew where they were Friday. And this girl said that she knew Thursday night was a sleepover night at the Blank house. There was a sleepover. But remember, she wasn't in town. Kaylee was at home. So like there was a sleepover on Thursday night. But Kaylee was not able to attend since she resigned from the sorority. So the Alfies, or whatever they call themselves, they had a sleepover on Thursday night. Kaylee couldn't go because Kaylee resigned. This girl was in that sorority, that same sorority as Kaylee, who's the girlfriend of Adam. That's who I believe that this person is. She thought that Kaylee was in Coeur d'Alene, and she told her to come back. She thought Kaylee came back Friday and showed people her car. She did not believe that they did anything Friday night. Sergeant Cortez, because this is out by the Meridian area, Sergeant Cortez asked if Gonsalves ever mentioned anything about a stalker. Ridiculous, okay? Again, on this crap. Okay. This is the person who said that Cortez asked if Gonsalves said anything once her and Jack had broken up, if he would want to hurt her or anything like that. This girl says that Kaylee described Jack to her as her child and was not a serious guy. It was really bizarre. Blank was in Blank's fraternity and they all hung out. So like, Jack was in this fraternity, and I think that she said Adams, and they all hung out together since they lived next door. She described Gonsalves and Blank as a brother and sister relationship. They shared Murphy the dog. So right when she mentions the Murphy the dog, okay, that doesn't click in like this dog barking. Sergeant Cortez asked her if she thought that blank would do anything to hurt her, and she believed he would never do anything to hurt her, meaning Jack. Jack was described as a city guy, and she did not think he did not like outdoor shit, which is fucking bizarre. Even what does that have to do with shit? Now, Sergeant Cortez asked this girl if she knew anyone that might have wanted to hurt them in their circle of friends. Okay. She said, their circle is interesting, and that's where it kind of stumps everyone. ... Because this group of people would probably never have been friends if it wasn't for the housing situation, right? This is this girl's take. All of the roommates' friends would meet each other and have friends hanging out with friends, which should make everybody now realize that, yeah, people saying that they didn't really know other people, it's exactly accurate. Because your friends, like everybody has their separate friends, but then they're all just like using the same house where they all live to hang out. So like you wouldn't know people. So Sergeant Cortez asked her, here it is, if she heard anything the night of the homicide. And she normally would. What? Sergeant Cortez asked if she had heard anything the night of the homicide, and she normally would. They were referred to as the party house and would normally hang out in the backyard and play loud music. The night of the homicide, everyone had gone elsewhere to hang out. The sliding back door was considered the front door to the people who would visit. She didn't know if the back door was locked or unlocked. This girl talked about how the kitchen area, living room area, that was the main place for them to hang out. The door was usually open for people. She did not know of any large knives in the house. Ready? Here it comes. I told her if she can think of anything to assist the investigation to call. She mentioned how she would hear the dog, Murphy, bark, and she never heard him bark that night. This girl had the television on and thought she had gone to bed around 3:30 a.m. She would be able to hear anything going on in the house, she says, since the windows are really thin. This completely contradicts the fucking, wait, what? She's basically trying to say that in her house, while she is in her house, this girl is trying to tell this officer that, shoot, man, I can hear everything going on in that house because our walls are paper thin. Is that right? And now, again, we need this interview because this interview, it's specific when it says, I didn't hear Murphy barking. And I went to bed, though, at 3:30. But when the barking really starts is at 4:17, right? And goes all the way until 4:50, basically. And it's specific to Murphy barking. Well, did you hear a different dog barking? Because this is the way that this is written. But here she just comes out and flat out says that I can hear everything going on in that house. It's like, wait, what? In the house. Interesting. Do you mean like you can really just hear everything that's going on like outside the house? Because I'll tell you what, we have that camera. And that camera tells us something different, in my opinion. Okay. But here she's like, she mentioned how she would hear the dog Murphy bark, and she never heard him bark that night. You guys, And Taylor was going to use this, I believe. Because, yeah, Murphy wasn't barking. It was the dog at 1260. And it was so much later. And I think she's probably going to use the fact that how much that she was drinking. Sergeant Cortez asked if the other roommates would have anyone who would want to hurt them. What is that question? She thought everyone in the house were amazing people. Gonsalves' boyfriend, blank blank, was in Boise. And that was a problem because it really meant to say like Maddie's boyfriend was in Boise. She spoke very highly of him. Xana and Chapin were in a newer relationship and usually partied with the blank. Xana knew a lot of people and did not have any enemies. And blank and her friends created Instagram accounts and have their profiles private. Lately, they have been getting a lot of traffic. She added, people can make a fake profile and it would be an easy way to stalk people. She mentioned a profile which had a pretty girl as the profile picture. Ready for this? This is fucking amazing right here for everything we've been saying at this channel. Because this is what the Pullman Police Department was doing. She mentioned a profile which had a pretty girl as the profile picture. The profile had been around for a long time. The name on the profile was blank blank. She did not know if the profile was real or fake. How would this specific profile that she was basically outing, because I believe all of them thought this was before the murders ever happened, and that they were definitely in tune with what and how the police would operate. I'm telling you, they would be talking about that. Hey, be careful for fake accounts that are coming in. They're using really pretty girls and they're acting like X, Y, and Z. And they would all be telling themselves about that. Okay. And then boom, it just ends. No more further questions. Okay, we're going to stop right there because now you're going to get into exposing the police. Okay. But this interview, I don't want to see it written up in Cortez's words. I want to hear this girl talking about this. All right. And I remember this girl says that she slept in the same bed as somebody else. And so you go to number 7, which is report 7, which is a girl that says that she lived at blank in Moscow, Idaho during the incident. Her backyard abutted the 1122 King Road backyard. She knew Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, and Xana Kernodle. She did not know Ethan Chapin. She was closest with Mogan and Gonsalves. She was in the blank sorority with Kaylee. The rest of the house was in the blank sorority. Kaylee had dropped the sorority house membership that year due to financial costs. Kaylee was out of town most of the week, but had decided to come back near the end of the week to go to the Pi Phi formal on Friday, November 11th with one of her roommates. Friday night, Kaylee had asked her to go to the club, which she did not. She did go out Saturday to a game day celebration, but this is who I believe is Natalie. Saturday night, she went to the Dirty Goat, a local bar. Kaylee contacted her and wanted her to go to the corner club. She met Kaylee at the corner club around 11. Kaylee and Maddie had a lot of other people were there. This is a person that had a small run-in with Cole. Anyways, she said that she woke up on Sunday morning at approximately... Oh, wait, let me back up. She stayed at the corner club till approximately 2 a.m. and arrived home at approximately 2:30 a.m. 2:30 a.m. She was up until approximately 3:30 a.m. and did not hear anything. She woke up Saturday morning at approximately 7:30 a.m. She had been in a different room than her own. This is the person, in my opinion, that would have slept in the other, right? She and her roommates made breakfast around 8:30 a.m. Later, when she went to her room, she could see a lot of police cars next door. I remember where the police cars were parking. They were parking on the King, and that's why when she could look out, she's seeing them where they were parking. Like, she's not talking like this. She can see where they were, like, right by, like, the 1122 cop, because that's not where they were. They were all lined up on that other road. Okay. She spoke with blank, the Uber driver, Eric, who told her he was pretty sure he had taken Mogan and Gonsalves home that night. And I remember the girl that she stayed in that room with. Okay, I just read that one, and she's like, I stayed in that room, and we had taken the same Uber. Okay, is that right? So these two girls left together. They took Eric, their roommates. These two girls, they slept in the same room that night. So this is totally normal, just like Maddie and Kaylee slept in the same room, right? Unless Kaylee was coming upstairs and went into Maddie's room and actually walked in on whatever was happening. Now, she spoke with Eric, the Uber driver, who told her he was pretty sure that he had taken Mogan and Gonsalves home that night. Eric drove a smaller gray sedan. Gonsalves' old room, which was the room that Carnudo was living in, Kaylee recently moved into the room on the third floor after that girl said that she wasn't moving back. Her bedroom window, this girl that we're talking to right here, her bedroom window looks out onto 1122 King Road's backyard. Okay? She can usually hear anything going on in their backyard. Now, this girl says in the backyard. Murphy, the dog at 1122 King Road, usually barks a little bit, and she can generally hear it, which she didn't recall happening that night. She had booked tickets with Kaylee to go to Europe together. And this is why I believe that this is Bailey. This is Bailey Dempster. She is on and was on the witness list for the defense. Kaylee had recently sold a white Subaru sedan from approximately, blah, blah, blah. So she knew all that. She did not think that Jack Showalter had anything to do with the incidents. Blank showed a video from a party earlier on game day, which showed that Blank was wearing which appeared to be the same as the person from a video from the grub truck. Blank remembers Kaylee and Maddie saying that they were going to John's Alley and that he was going with them. This person was not good friends with Kaylee and Maddie, but Mogan is kind of friends with a lot of people involved with the Greek houses. John Showalter is in the same pledge class year as this person, Kaylee and Mogan, and had been in a lot of their classes. Blank showed a screenshot of a group message obtained by blank. The author of the message seemed to know a lot of information regarding the homicides. Right there, that's important. Blank had read some creepy comments on YouTube and obtained screenshots of some of them. Blank turned over a flash drive with some of the comments. Talk about being ready for an interview. Let me see if this is a girl that had... Yeah, her father, Blank, was present for the interview. They did it down at the station. It was on November 18th. Okay. And basically what this girl was saying, I want to know who she was claiming had a lot. The author of the message seemed to know a lot of information regarding the homicides. She did not believe there was a party at 1122 King Road on Saturday, the game day. People often use the slider door as the main entrance for the house. She does not think it was usually locked. The neighbors' dogs behind them also did not bark at anything that night. Woo-hoo! There it is, guys. I was waiting for the bomb. I was waiting for it. I waited till 2 hours to do it. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Shake it fast. Watch yourself. I told you guys there were 2 dogs at that motherfucking house. Here it is. Giving it to you straight. Right here at the end of the interview. The girl that was going to Europe with Kaylee says, the neighbors' dogs, plural, behind them, behind the 1122 King Road house, behind them also did not bark at anything that night in Wowsville. Wowsville. Okay. Boom daddy. Okay. Yes, they did. They were barking all motherfucking night. All right. Everybody over there, in my opinion, is lying about that. Okay. Because 1260 Walenta house is off limits because of whatever they do at that house. Okay. Dogs, plural. Thank you. Boom. Yes. Yes. I told you guys, I said, there's 2 dogs there. I'm going to go find this interview and show it to you. Here it is. It says the neighbor's dogs behind them also did not bark at anything that night. That's a really interesting way to say that. At anything. Think about that. Ready? Okay. To say I didn't hear them barking. That's totally different than saying the neighbor's dogs behind them also did not bark at anything that night. At anything. That's completely different comment. If I just say, I didn't hear my neighbor's dog barking that night, period. That's how I would say that. But this is written differently because it says it like this. The neighbor's dogs behind them also did not bark at anything that night. Bark at anything. Stop with the bullshit. You're just making shit worse. You know what, Chris? You make stuff worse. You make stuff worse. You've been listening, unless you're deaf, dumb, and blind, Chris. You've been listening to the same shit that we've been listening to. And those dogs are absolutely going hog wild barking. Between 417 and 450. And everybody and their mother wants to say that they didn't hear anything. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen. We hear it nonstop, over 385 barks to be exact. And that's only until 4:30. So you can take you being dumb, deaf, and blind the fuck up out of here. I'm so sick of you in my comment section anyways. I like to have healthy discussions. You just want to gaslight. This is a discussion. If you want to have, you heard one dog barking? No, you didn't. I don't know why you're telling me what I heard. You are not me, and you not speak for me. But Chris, if you want to take the link and actually have a debate, I'll debate anybody on this case. Nobody wants to talk about these damn dog barks. Why? There's 385 dog barks just until 4:30. After 4:30, now that we have the cameras past that point, we can give you a new number, which is going to be somewhere in the 500 to 600 mark. If my neighbor's dog barked 500 or 600 times, we're on top of each other in this development. These people want to act like they don't know anything that's going on. And that's perfectly fine because I wouldn't want anything to do with this case either if I was all of them. I'd be scared shitless. 4 people were just stabbed to death. Okay? I'd be taking my dad to an interview too. I'd be taking a lawyer. I'd be taking everybody. Not because I want to not cooperate. So Chris can go on believing that there was no dog barks and there was only one dog bark. Well, here it is. The neighbor says that even the dogs that are behind them at 1260 Walenta, yeah, those dog barks. There's 2 dogs there. Well, actually, they say the neighbor's dog. So fuck, there could be 3. The neighbor's dogs behind them also did not bark at anything that night. Well, that's funny that they used the word at anything versus just saying that they were just barking. So, anyways. I want to say thank you so much to Dana. Thank you so much to Juror 13. Going back through all of these now. Did the girls ditch JS? I don't believe so. I just believe that in college you just go off and do whatever you're doing. So that's what I believe. William. Hi, William. Karen. $9.99. William, strong with the wrench. What's up, Angel? Angel love. Karen, because I like to say it so much during the Karen retrial, $1,999.99. Woo! Hope for your soul. Riding high with that kite, girl. William, look at you with the wrench. Jennifer Nicholas. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. Kelly. Thank you. 11 months. Look out, girl. Baby time. Kelly Land. Oh, I like that. You're going to get the bottom of this shit. Yeah. Nobody could listen to that, to the videos and say to themselves, like, wow, for a dog to be barking from 4:17 until 4:50 and everybody around there. Yeah. Because what's interesting is that houses that were not in the butting up to the chain link fence, the houses that were like where the Jack D's live and across on their side of the street, some of those guys were like, yeah, there was a dog going berserk. In that clip of 4 or 5 students getting out of that car, Angel says, at the apartments, they all have knives. What, Angel? Angel, I don't think we can see any of that. Kitchen knives, like Hunter had in his hand. Love you, Lana. Well, this is only my opinion, she says, and I have seen footage. It's horrible. They call themselves pals. Well, I don't know, Angel, what you're referring to, but I'm going to let you have that opinion. Just so we're clear, that is a comment that I'm reading. That is not my opinion. Soul Warrior, welcome. New membership land. Kelly Land. Let's hit that goal. I think we hit the goal, guys. Look out. Greetings from Norway. Holy shit. I love it when I see people from all over the globe. We have a lot here. When I look at my stats, because I'm a numbers person, I always look at them. I love when I see, like, some months I'll have 20% viewership that's not in the United States of America. And I'm like, that is so freaking cool. So cool. In case you guys didn't know this, but my dad was actually born in Italy, so I love that. Hoffy Master, what's up, Hoff? Cops are involved somehow. Yeah, well, the incompetence is real. I'll tell you that. Good night, Karen 999. I bet you Karen was like, yep, my medicine's kicked in. I'm officially out. Michelle, what's good? Thank you for all you do too. 8 months up, next month's baby. BB. You guys remember BB Mac? Thank you so much. Towards the goal, thumbs up. Appreciate you. Mean Uncle Cosgrove. Thank you for all that you do, Lana. Thank you, Mean Uncle Cosgrove. Jiggles and wiggles and wiggles and jiggles. 5 memberships given out. Who got a lucky green name tag now? Right there. Thanking the jiggles and the wiggles. Gian, what was this? What we got? Is it Jean? Jean? Hey, so she turned somebody green. Thank you so much. What do we got here? Ooh, Sleuther, what's up? I am sunk over this barking realization. Love this crew. I know this is a great crew. You know, thanks for all your hard work. So then it comes to the title now, which says Bryan Kohberger's relationship with 1260 Walenta. You know, Bryan Kohberger's DNA, touch DNA, invisible DNA, as they say, was on that sheath, right? You cannot deny that. How it got there, when it got there, that's what would have been up for grabs to argue in the courtroom, right? But then we didn't even need to have any of that happen because Bryan then went ahead and fucking pleaded guilty to everything. Pleaded guilty to everything. And now that's why the title of the live is what it's titled, is Idaho4, Bryan Kohberger's relationship with 1260 Walenta. Because it seems like the person that did this crime was definitely going back through that area. Something wacky was going on over there at 1260 Walenta. Did Bryan, I don't know, and it's not like Bryan Kohberger put in any public requests, to see if anybody had made any phone calls, had called noise complaints in. I would love to see if he was able to get any of that information prior to any of this, to know that house, anybody there that was calling any of those noise complaints in. Everybody wants to say like he was really methodically trying to plant this out. But I can tell you this, that we were the first people to ask for any of that stuff. His name was on none of it, Angel, back to back. Thank you, Angel. Super sweetheart. Perfect Harmony, giving away a membership. Thank you so much, Perfect Harmony. Appreciate that. We love you, Lana, for always being transparent with the truth. Trying to. Sorry, I just had to go off a little bit on Chris. I'm sure I'll have 30 messages in our comments on the video, but you have your right to an opinion, but you do not have the right to attack me. I don't attack you. Love your channel, Rockstar Vixen says, thanks for all the hard work. This case is nuts. This case is nuts. It should have never been a plea deal. I don't think it's fair for the victims and their families. A member for 17 months, still going, and love it. Thank you so much. Tomboy, what is good? How are you? You're the bomb. What do we got here? Is it Jones Claw? CLA member for 7 months. Almost baby time. Thank you, Lana Lou. We love you, friend. Oh, back at you guys. Back at you over there. We love you back. What does this say? No, or knock knock. Oh, knock knock 9931. New member. Cheers. Hell yeah. Welcome to Memberville. And William says, Lana, you just rock flat out. And I said, you know what, William? So do you. So do you. All right. Wanted to get through those. Agree, right to an opinion. All right. People attacking. Yeah. Dude, have an opinion all day long. But there's 1,202 people in here. And right here in report 7, the neighbor says, whose backyard, in quotes, she says, she lived on King, and during the incident, and her backyard abutted the 1122 King Road backyard. She was a sorority sister of Kaylee, and right here at the end, she said, the neighbors' dogs behind them also did not bark at anything that night. Dogs is plural. She knows that they have multiple dogs at the 1260 Walenta house. Like I said, there wasn't just going to be one dog there. I believe that Matt had a dog. I believe that Simon had a dog. And there was it's multiple dogs. And if you go and listen to the soundtrack of 1112, you're going to hear multiple dogs. And it is what it is. But on that night, she's saying that she didn't hear anything. Now she's saying that she went to bed at 3:30. And I believe one of these girls was puking. Somebody maybe needed to hold back the hair. I don't know. Let's see. Now, in report 8, ready? Report 8 comes right after 7. And this would happen with a gentleman that was, and this is either, I think this is, Ann Taylor had them on the witness list. And so this person was interviewed on November 18th, right after his girlfriend was. They were interviewed separately though. And it took place at his home, which was located in Parma. Again, this is report 8. And he said that at 11:36 a.m., Homeland Security investigators, task force officers, Sage Collins, and Matt we're saying they interviewed this dude, okay, in regard to the homicide, okay? And this kid, was a friend of Maddie and Kaylee and was also their neighbor across the street at blank King Road, okay? And he says right here that his girlfriend was the one that got a ride with Kaylee and Maddie to go to the corner club, okay? So the girl that rode with them to go there, his girl, that's who's being interviewed right now, is the boyfriend of that girl. And yeah, he's saying that the next day, when he woke up the next morning on like that Sunday, he went and got breakfast, and blank drove to his house approximately 11:45 a.m. There was only one police vehicle in front of the residence when they drove by. And so that would have been, if you think about it, he's leaving. So now we can basically attribute this guy and how he like left, like they came, and how he then like we see that happen right in front of our faces. So yeah. Now this is what should interest us all is this dude. Blank told blank. Okay. So this guy is saying that someone told him. So blank told blank that he had been woken up between 4 and 4:45 a.m. because blank, and it's redacted, and Gonsalves's dog. Ready? Ding, 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 ding. When it says because blank and Gonsalves's dog had been barking very loudly. Ready? Right here, this guy says, and guess what that redaction is? Because blank, that means somebody at 1260 Walenta. And he was attributing it to, and blank's dog, meaning Kaylee's dog, okay? And we always thought that could that be potentially saying Jack, Decor, okay? And so until that actually gets redacted there, so I can see if the person that said this to him, was he saying Decor and Kaylee's dog, or was he referring to, could potentially be, I heard Murphy and Matt's dog, or like the 1260 house. Okay. Regardless, this is why Ann Taylor had them on the list. The dog had been barking very loudly and uncontrollably. It sounded as though the dog was outside, which was odd because of how cold it was and the dog not being an outside dog. Now, remember the way that this is that he's telling the police, hey, my roommate or whoever this dude is, his friend said, he's like, yeah, I talked to my friend and he was like, he told me, so that's why it says blank told blank, he had been woken up between 4 and 4:45 because blank. Now, could that potentially be, is that Simon? Is that SG? Did SG tell this person that? You guys get what I'm saying? Because these are redacted names. Is it now SG? Okay. Or Tyler or Matt. Okay. Somebody told this person that's being interviewed that he had been woken up between 4. And now the only interview that we have so far that we've gone through is that is said by SG but you have to go look at the Moscow police reports to see that. Okay. So, but the reason that Ann Taylor wants to ask this dude this questions are basically, when did he probably say this? And there's probably more to it. Also, this is just the written report. I would love to hear the actual audio. This person says that he thought it was odd that the other two were not injured and they were just sitting in their rooms and slept through the incident. So yeah. So blank was not aware of any of the victims had a stalker. He mentioned a stalker from earlier in the year. that lived in blank apartments and had already been reported to the police. So I would love to know what that's about. Anyways, let's see. Here's another person who's where she lives is in one of the houses that butts up to the what do you call it? The backyard. She says that the interview took place at her boyfriend's house in Parma, Canyon County. So on Saturday, November 12th, she said that, whatever. Here we go. Kaylee had contacted a man by the name of Eric to give them a ride from their house. Blank did not know Eric's last name, but provided his phone number as blank. When Eric arrived to pick them up, so this is the girl that rode with them, Kaylee got in the front seat, and blank, Madison and her, they got in the back seat. He dropped off the girls and said that he would be driving until about 3. So this girl was asked, hey, do you want to come with us to John's Alley? And she just decided not to go. She thought it was odd that they left with Showalter because they never hung out with him. He smoked a lot of pot, had a temper, and fought a lot. I cannot believe that wasn't redacted from all the things that would be redacted. But they're allowed to say that about him and leave that unredacted. Whatever. It's a bunch of bullshit. The girls knew blank because he was a blank or a member of the blank fraternity. Mogan's boyfriend was also the same sorority. So now let's get to this part, which is, they don't ask her any questions about hearing anything. Blank left the corner club with blank at approximately 1:15 a.m. and went to the grub truck. They got food at the grub truck and went to blank house at blank in Moscow to eat and go to bed. I asked blank why it would have been odd for the girls to leave with, so they don't even get into the whole, did you hear anything? And then, this is the person that puts Xana Kernodle at the next interview at report 10. She was part of the sorority, one of them. And she said that she currently lives at the sorority house and had never been to that 1122 King Road house. She was at the blank fraternity house on Saturday night. Chapin and Kernodle were at the party. She was with Xana until 2 a.m. This is the person that's putting themselves with Xana until 2 a.m. So I know people were out there saying that about them going home prior to everybody else and that they didn't know that they would have been sleeping and that they were sleeping and blah, blah. This girl is the person that blows that all up. Okay. This would have been Anne's person that was going to be testifying that's going to blow up the narrative that Ethan and Xana were home at that house before anybody would have ever come home. This is what blows it up. And it is report 10. Okay. And it's a very simple report. And she was with Xana until 2 a.m. She said she took a picture with Xana and walked home. Chapin and Kernodle remained at the party. She had no further contact with them. Xana had been dating Chapin for about a year. Everyone had a crush on Xana. She heard blank was at the 1122 King Road house after the blank party. Blank is a blank and a PC brother of Chapin. The interview concluded at 2:26 on that day that they did it. So she took a picture with Xana. And but she's the person that would, hey, this is where I took a picture with her. I was with her until 2, and then, I went home. So this person right here, it's report 10 of the Idaho State Police supplementals. And she was part of the blank sorority at the University of Idaho. She knew Ethan Chapin through his blank fraternity. She got to know Xana through Chapin. She didn't know Kaylee or Madison very well. She knew Chapin and Knuddle for a year and a half. She currently lives at the sorority house and had never been to the 1122 King Road house. And this is the person that then says she was at the Sigma Chi fraternity house on Saturday night, November 12th, for a party. Chapin and Knuddle were at the party. She had never heard of any sort of stalking incidences. She was with Xana until 2 a.m. She took a picture with Xana and then walked home. Chapin and Knuddle remained at the party. So when she's leaving, she's basically saying they were still there. She had no further contact with them. And then she said that she heard, this is hearsay, but she heard that there's a person's name redacted was at the 1122 King Road house after the Sigma Chi party. This person is a blank, probably, and is a PC brother of Chapin. So she was saying whatever fraternity he was in. So right there, that's the person that blows up the narrative that Ethan and Xana went home at like midnight and they were home and they just fell asleep and then they woke up and then they just ordered some door. No, this person proves that that is not factual. And Taylor had her on the witness list. Are you guys enjoying this? Should I continue or should I call it a day? I know this is a lot of information. Next person worth mentioning is continue, Lana. Continue telling us the story. Good, because I have some more I want to jot down here. So I'm going to continue here. Okay, the next report is Report 11. It's a very important report. Report 11 from the Idaho State Police. Number 16 here. It says, I asked this person where her house was in relation to the victim's house. This girl said that both houses shared a backyard with a chain link fence separating the 2 yards. Okay. So Report 11 is now yet another person that's back in that area, okay, whose backyard shares a chain link fence with them. Okay. Now, this is a person that she asked how well that she knew the victims. She said that she met Mogan her freshman year and knew her through mutual friends. Blank said that she met Kaylee her freshman year and were both in the same sorority. Blank said Gonsalves was her best friend. Okay. So this is an Alfie. Is that how they say it? Anyways, right here, number 17, Sergeant Hoxie. Hoxpatui, groovy guy or not, Hoxie, Hoxie, asked if she heard any strange noises. Blank said that she did not. Any strange noises. I asked Blank if Gonsalves had always stayed at the same apartment. So that's all they get into about Sergeant Hoxie asked if she had any strange noises. Well, notice how the writing is there. Any strange noises. It would not be strange to hear the dog barking if that dog always barked. It would not be strange. So again, it's how that wording is. I want to know if she's, let's talk about that night. So, but here, this person said that her fence butted up to the yard. And okay. This person then says, Sergeant Hoxie asked this girl if Kaylee had always stayed at the same apartment. This girl said that Kaylee had stayed there all summer. Remember now the babysitter stuff? So it's interesting that Kaylee couldn't continue babysitting in some capacities for that other family. It was under the understanding that, like, if she's there all summer, why couldn't she? But she also was doing that internship, remember? Okay. This girl said that Kaylee's room in the summer was on the main floor. At the end of the summer, Kaylee's room moved into that other person's room upstairs. And now we have to ask ourselves, does that come into play with anything? Could that potentially come into play with anything? Keely's, the two rooms, okay, where there's victims is Xana's room, where that was once Kaylee's room, and that nobody was actually sleeping in Kaylee's room, right? And so then there's Maddie's room. This girl said that she had heard from one of the girls' friends that they went to Coeur d'Alene for a week, and when they returned, they noticed the rear sliding glass door was open. Blank did not know the date of this incident. That's really, really important. They would just like leave the sliding glass door open all the time, or like that being left open would just be another, like nothing big there, just like another normal thing. To say that actually has nothing to do with the murder that night, that this person could have actually come through a completely different way. That like basically you can't give any weight to that. If you can show other instances where this has happened, that could potentially have nothing to do with anything with the back sliding glass door. But she didn't, that's all hearsay, right? So moving on. Now, here we go. Okay, this kid that was interviewed, a guy interviewed down in Boise because he returned home. And the only part I want to pull out with this is number 12 here. At approximately 11 p.m., he got to the corner club. While he was at the corner club, he saw Kaylee, but couldn't remember if she was with anyone. At approximately 12:30 a.m., a sober member from his fraternity arrived to drive him and his other buddy home, which was, I believe, Jack D. As they were leaving the corner club, they were pulled over for an expired registration. And then I was like, okay, no, this is actually the kid that was from Jack D's house, but had went first. But nothing really happened to them. The cops let them go, and he was driven home. Blank, blank, and blank got home about 30 minutes later. So then I was able to say, check. Okay, that came from Peyton Rossi. Then was why Peyton Rossi was called is because of all that ordeal about getting pulled over with all that shit. So it makes all sense. He wanted us to know, here's the guy. He wanted us to know that blank heard a dog barking around 4 a.m. Blank reported it to the police the following day after the incident. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay? Right here. This right here. This whole time, if you actually go back and you read these, they start making more sense. Is it Simon G that was telling all these people? Because everything, when you're reading all these individual reports, it's this person told me that they heard a dog bark. Okay? So here it is, supplemental report 12. This kid says at the end, it says, number 19. He wanted us to know, the person that you're interviewing. So he's writing this up like it's just another bad example of how you would write a report. But the officer is basically saying, he, as in the guy that they're interviewing, he wanted us to know that blank heard a dog barking around 4 a.m. This person who heard the dog barking, so it says blank reported to the police the following day after the incident. That is Simon Getty. Okay, that's who called dispatch. Okay. If this is referring to any other person, do you guys understand that then there would be two different people that had called to want to talk about a dog bark? But that's not how I've seen it anywhere. It's just this one person that has went around telling people. Okay. And then when you actually look at that interview that Vargas did, Simon says, I love it. Simon says, yes, I called. I want to talk to you guys because I was the one that called earlier, and and he's blaming the dog barking on Murphy. Blaming the dog barking on Murphy. Wild. But this is how you control a narrative. So again, why does Ann Taylor want to call this guy to the stand? Okay. Which is the B brothers, I call them, because the Braden Jensen guy and then the Braden, whatever his other, these two dudes were both, in my opinion, right now, talked to by Simon Getty to tell, and he was telling his story to them. That's what this is. It's Simon Getty, but then it's very interesting. Okay. Okay, so then now we can move on to the next one then. He's like, he wanted us to know that blank heard a dog barking around 4 a.m. Blank reported it to the police the following day after the incident. All right, now some people were asking me, and I'll tell you guys where to go find it. Somebody asked me in the comment section, Lana, I saw that you were referring to a house by the tree house. Is that something that you read somewhere or you're just calling it that? Can you explain that more? Thanks. And so I wanted to answer that. Number 3 here on report 13, supplemental report 13. It says, number 3, it says blank said he started his day at approximately 10:30 to 11 a.m., got some food and ate. He took his girlfriend, and her name is redacted, some beer at Treehouse. Okay. And so you can find it, and the Treehouse is not redacted, and it's in quotes. And I believe that the Treehouse refers to the house that's, if you're standing on Taylor, and you're facing, away from Sigma Chi in the Banfield, and you're looking the other way, and you're looking at the Whites. To the right of the Whites is a house. That's a big house. And it has this big tree in its yard, like huge. And I think they refer to it as the tree house because of that big tree that's there as well. But when you're looking at the Whites apartment, because there's 2 different buildings that are the Whites, it's to the left of the entire complex. It's the left. So whoever out there asked me about that, there you go. Now, reading this again, supplemental report number 13, the person that's being interviewed is a guy. And he says the following right here. I asked blank. So the cop asked, I asked blank who's being interviewed. So I asked blank if he heard any noises that could have woken him. So now do you see how the questions are now being specific to not only did you hear something, but did you hear it and that it woke you up? Like that, you're just not asking, hey, so did you hear anything out of the ordinary that night? Okay. Or did anything now the question, the way that this guy's writing his report is he says, I asked blank if he heard any noises that could have woken him. Blank said no. He did say his friend blank told him he heard a dog barking between the hours of 4:15 and 5 a.m. Boom, daddy. So again, if you speed read through these, okay, one could assume and think that a bunch of different people heard the dog barking, okay? But here again, it's no, I didn't awake from anything, but he did say his friend, and then it's a redacted name, blank, blank. So first and last name are there. Told him he heard a dog barking between the hours of 4:15 a.m. and 5 a.m. I want to exactly hear how he says it though. Blank said it sounded like Murphy. Yeah, Simon Getty said it sounded like Murphy. Murphy was a dog who was shared between their two houses. Blank said Murphy was at the girls' house that day. So again, it just wasn't Murphy though. It sounded like Murphy. That's what again, this is hearsay. Was a dog who was shared between their two houses. And Murphy was at the girls' house that day. He asked, okay. Ready. Blank said he went to his room where his girlfriend was already in bed. Blank said that they talked for a bit and believed he fell asleep around 2:45 a.m. Okay. Now, the detective asked Blank if there was any other information he feels we should know. Blank said he had heard from Blank that one of the girls was downstairs. When she opened the door, she saw a person in a ski mask, made eye contact, slammed the door, and locked it. Would love to know where he heard that from, because he doesn't know any of the people. So I'm just, that's just how stuff would be starting to like spread, Okay. Now, somebody that used to live in the house when Maddie just lived there is report 14. She lived in the room that Blank is currently in, and that either has to be Bethany or Dylan because it's redacted. Madison Mogan is the only one currently in the house that was in the house last year too. This is the person that FaceTimed that night with Mogan at the corner club. The conversation was only about 40 seconds. Then she said, she heard that Kaylee was walking her dog once and had seen someone hiding behind a garage or a garbage dumpster. Kaylee felt someone had been watching her. This was about a month ago. Again, would love to know where that truly originated from. So then, okay. Now, towards the end of July, Gonsalves, now this is report 15, and this is one of the girls that lived in the house prior to. And so Kaylee, towards the end of July, texted this girl and said, "Hey, can I move into your room?" And this girl said yes, because she had decided that she was not going to go back to the house. And she decided that she was going to stay in Boise. Okay. This person described the house she lived in as an open door policy, meaning people were constantly going in and out of the house. She was always scared of something like that happening. She would triple check the lock on her bedroom door because she didn't feel safe. Mogan would leave her bedroom door unlocked most of the time, as well as her window. There were times she would hear footsteps in the house and would blow it off thinking someone just had a friend over. Now, remember, this person who's talking had the room that was upstairs the year before, okay? And so she's like, "Hey, Maddie would just close her door. She wouldn't lock it, but I always locked mine." Sergeant Hoxie asked while she was living there if there were any break-ins or if she had heard of a stalker. She said there would be times she would wake up and would see the sliding glass door was unlocked. Not open, but unlocked. She thought it might have been from someone forgetting to lock the door after having people over the night before. She said that most people would use the front door. Only their close friends would use the sliding glass door in the kitchen. She said I had asked about other times that the glass door was found unlocked or open. This girl said that blank told her a while back they had all gone out. When they got back, they noticed that the sliding glass door was open. And now it's a redacted name that told her this. So that tells me that it was not one of the victims. It could have been one of the survivors, because that name would be redacted. Okay, ready. This girl says she had 3 different run-ins with a white male who she just described as 5'5", fit build, slick back hair, clean shaven, possibly mid-20s. Mid-20s. Now, when I'm thinking mid-20s, like I'm seeing like what, 25, 24? Mid-20s. The first time was at the corner club. He approached her and called her by name. This girl, though, did not know who he was. He told her he had come back and changed his major. A little while after that incident, during Parents' Weekend, Blank saw the same guy at a restaurant called Nectar. He was sitting at the bar with his back to her. As she was leaving, he turned and stared at her as she left. She told her boyfriend about the weird guy she kept seeing. The third time was walking down the street in town. The male was with a group of guys across the street. He turned and stared at her as she was walking by. She told her boyfriend about that guy. Her boyfriend was going to talk to that guy, but she did not let him. She never figured out who that guy was, but did remember what he looked like. Well, wouldn't you want to know about that? I'd give her a lineup. I know Ann Taylor wants to know about that. Sergeant Hoxie asked this girl if Gonsalves ever talked about a stalker. This girl told her about a time at Winco where Gonsalves thought somebody was following her. That was from one of the roommates. Okay. Sergeant Hoxie asked this girl if she had heard about how the girls' day had gone. She's saying she heard about the day's activities from blank, meaning either Dylan or Bethany, okay, and through Snapchat. Dylan or Bethany said that they had a really good day and had fun. It sounded like they started at their house and then went to the blank apartments, the Whites. She believed at some point Xana and her boyfriend, Ethan, and somebody went back to the house because they weren't 21 years old. Mogan and Gonsalves went to the corner club. I asked blank, meaning Hoxie is asking this girl, if Dylan or Bethany had mentioned what they thought happened, because she's getting her information from one of the 2 survivors. It was game day, so everyone had been drinking. Dylan or Bethany told this girl that she wasn't sure when Xana and Ethan got home. Xana was with blank, and they were home before Mogan and Gonsalves got back. And the guy messes up there, and he says Xana was with, what they mean to write there is like, it's either Dylan or Bethany, okay? And he fucks up. So then this girl told her, either Dylan or Bethany told her she went upstairs and ate grub truck with Mogan and Gonsalves. Whoever she's talking to, she went back downstairs to go to bed. Hoxie asks this girl that he's interviewing if either Bethany or Dylan mentioned seeing anybody else in the house, or if anybody came home with, Maddie or Kaylee. She said no. It sounded like it was just the 3 of them eating grub truck. Now, remember Ashley Banfield. This is who I believe Ashley Banfield sources for back early on. Okay, early on in the investigation. This person, okay, was told by Bethany or Dylan that she woke up around 4 a.m. to music playing. She hoped Gonsalves would turn it off soon. That's exactly what Ashley Banfield said. Blank had said she could hear Gonsalves and their dog, again, this is why I think it's Dylan, Murphy, playing upstairs. I'm like, upstairs, but remember Dylan's version is that they were playing on the same floor, but again, that's how this guy is writing it. Shortly after that, Dylan told this girl the music turned off and heard Kaylee say, "I think someone's here." Now we can all go back to 1112. And when was all of that music being played? When were they all singing out there? That goes back to everything I've said in the beginning of this episode today, which was Dylan is remembering what happened way early on at like 3. Okay. Remember I said that like at 2:53, 2:45 when Kaylee would have gone upstairs, you know. But this person says, shortly after that, Dylan told this girl that the music turned off and heard Kaylee say, "I think someone is here." Dylan told this girl she heard someone run upstairs and run back down. Exactly. Run upstairs and run back down. Blank, meaning Dylan, said she peeked out of her room and did not see anything, but could vaguely hear someone in the bathroom. She called blank and blank told her to come down to her room. So she called, when she says she called Bethany, and Bethany told her to come down to her room. After a few minutes, Dylan told her she opened her bedroom door and saw a person standing out there, and they made eye contact. Dylan said he then walked out the sliding glass door. Sergeant Hoxie asked if Dylan had described this person to her. Dylan told her she felt hazy and didn't remember many details. Now, I'm just using the term. I'm saying the word Dylan here, okay? Because of just how the story has been flowing, right? Because it said that she called blank and blank told her to come down to her room. That has to be why it has to be Dylan, right? Sergeant Hoxie asked if Dylan had described this person to her. Dylan told her she felt hazy and didn't remember many details. Dylan told her she thought the person was about her height and had his face and forehead covered. Dylan said she ran to Bethany's room and locked the door. This would be way fucking earlier, guys. Way earlier. Way earlier. Because now her memory with her hearing is about this music. Okay? The music. When the music stopped playing. Okay? There is no music playing anything at between 4 and 4:17 or 4 and 4:30. Where you can even remotely try to say that there was music is you'd have to rewind this all back until about, like I said, 2:53, 3 o'clock. And that's that. There is no music at 4. And the cops over here like, oh wait, but they got Xana ordered a, and remember, like, she doesn't hear Xana at all. And they don't ever talk about Xana. They don't ever talk about Ethan. Because this was at 3. And Xana and Ethan weren't there. And she had never seen them. And had no, like, there was just, it wasn't even a thought in her mind that it could have been Xana. Because when she had actually heard this, it was way earlier. But hearing music, so she's like, I heard the music turn off. And remember, Banfield's thing was, yeah, I opened up my door and I said, can you shut that fucking music off? Remember that? That was how it was reported to us. And it was like the music turned off and heard Kaylee say, I think someone is here. And then they just attributed all of this to like, oh, that must have been the DoorDash. So we're going to move all this at 4. Okay. I think someone's here. Sergeant Hoxie asked if Dylan had described the person. Nope, nothing. Sergeant Hoxie asked why she thought someone would want to harm her friends. She thought it was someone who was watching. She was always afraid of that. Listen to this. She was this person that lived there. She was always afraid of that. She always had an uneasy, weird feeling at that house. Do you understand that this is the complete opposite of everything that is being said? That Moscow is such a safe place. Nothing like that happens in Moscow. Okay? Moscow is amazing. Moscow's safe. Blah, blah, blah. This person is saying the complete opposite. She was always afraid of that. She always had an uneasy, weird feeling at the house, which is one of the reasons why she didn't want to go back. This is what is written in this report. And Taylor had her on her list. She felt the house was easy to get into and easy to watch because they didn't have any blinds over the windows and layout of the house. This girl had told Blank. Oh, I'm sorry. Dylan had told this girl who lived there last year, who didn't come back, Kaylee took her room. The sliding glass door was broken at one point. If the door was jiggled just right, the door would unlock. If the front door was locked, you had to enter the code on the keypad, but if the deadbolt wasn't locked, the door could be opened. And then this person was asked, is there anybody that we should talk to? And a name was given. Report 17. This girl that was supposed to go home with them, that spent most of her time at the corner club with Maddie and Kaylee, she was supposed to go home with them, but she had a weird feeling. So she got a ride home with a freshman Greek life designated driver. She left at approximately 1:15 a.m. She went home to her apartment at 3:30 to 3:45 because what she said she did is when she got home, she went to her friend's apartment, also in the Whites, which was directly across from Mogan's residence. She did not hear or see Mogan or Kaylee come home, but she knew they went and got food at Grub Truck after they left the corner club. And how she knew that was the video. She saw Kaylee post on Snapchat with Mogan at the Grub Truck. She went home at her apartment at 3:30 to 3:45 a.m. There were not a lot of people arriving home around that time, except for a few people belonging to the Blank fraternity who were staying in the apartment where she was hanging out. She knew there was speculation about Jack Showalter. Showalter texted this girl at approximately 3:04 a.m. Now, depending on when she gave this interview and if she was in Boise, if she was looking at her phone, that could actually be 2:04 Moscow time, just so we're clear, to see what she was doing. This girl grew up with him. She has heard about a stalker, but she heard it only for the girl's house. She has heard about a man who used to follow Kaylee on her walks with her dog. Okay? And also had been around the dumpster. Walks with her dog. Remember, now Matt Moyer tells everybody, hey, I one time walked my dog with Kaylee. I always wondered why it only was once that you'd ever walk your dog with Kaylee. Why? She went to high school with Jack Showalter. They were not in the same grade, and she knew Jack Showalter through Greek life. She did not know any of. She was really, this person right here was really adamant. She was not happy about the rumors that were going around. So yeah. Let's see. Okay. Now, Supplemental Report 20. This features a here we go. This is a 20-year-old female that was interviewed in Report 20. And this interview was on the November 18th. And it was out there in the Boise area. And she went physically to the police department. Xana was one of this person's closest friends outside her sorority. And this person knew Chapin through his fraternity. Now, there are apartments that surround the Sigma Chi house, like the lodge part. So she went to an apartment, possibly apartment blank. She couldn't remember the number during the lodge party, and Xana was in the apartment. This girl knew Xana to party pretty hard and noted that Kernodle wasn't super drunk that night. Another friend of blank took a photo of Xana in the apartment playing guitar and posted to her Snapchat story around 2 a.m. Okay. And so this is the girl's friend from the person earlier that I was telling you guys about that had taken a picture, blah, blah, blah. Blank took a screenshot of the post, meaning this person that is being interviewed right now. She screenshotted the post. Blank recalled later in the interview also seeing Kernodle's other roommate, Blank, at the Blank house. So she then says that she either remembers seeing Dylan or Bethany. Okay. The last that this girl spoke to Xana at the Sigma Chi house was approximately 12:45 a.m. When everyone was leaving, Xana and Chapin, according to her, walked away, and this girl believed they went right home and did not go anywhere else. Now, logic would tell you that this is absolutely fucking crazy, right? Because if they would have left at 12:45 and went straight home, then how could that other girl have a picture with them at 2 a.m., right? You would actually have to look at the camera roll to determine what time the picture of Xana was taken at, not what time it was uploaded to Snap. Also, was the picture taken from Snap, like using like the Snap camera, then it would just upload, and you can tell that that would have been immediately a picture that was taken that was uploaded at 2, because you can go through and pick other pictures that did not actually get taken at that time at 2 and just add that to your story though at 2. But all of this would be able to be determined by an expert using Cellbrite and using the downloads. Like this could be easily, figured out. So I believe that this person's phone, as well as the person that I just have been talking about before that, was really short, her phone would need to be downloaded to be able to tell that. Okay. So you'd be able to get to the bottom of that. Very simple, and you would know that you would need the phone to do it. Unless you're subpoenaing Snapchat straight and you know their, I guess their usernames and shit like that. Okay. So she says that when everyone was leaving, Colonel and Chapman walked away, and Blank believed that they went straight home and did not go anywhere else. This girl, got a ride home from a blank, a sober bro named blank blank. So like she remembers her sober bro. Here he is, his name. And it was not Eric Rower. It was an actual sober bro. So someone from the fraternity at approximately 2 a.m. This girl said that Blank also picked Gonsalves and Mogan up from the grub truck and can be seen on the grub truck live Twitch feed doing so. And so boom, boom, boom. Mark, if you're out there, here's the girl. We've been tracking Grower's activity, like where he's driving to. And in one of them, we have him driving up past to the sororities over in that area. This is who I believe, if she's at the Sigma Chi party, okay, Eric Grower would have had to go to the Sigma Chi house to pick her up. That's, or not. I'm sorry, let me back up. Let me back all the way up. When she first says that a sober bro named blank blank at approximately 2 a.m., this person said to her that he also picked up Kaylee and Mogan up from the grub truck and can be seen on the grub truck's live Twitch feed doing so. This is when everything was like, now it's all like a what the fuck moment. Because Kaylee and Maddie were picked up by Eric Grower. But according to this girl, this is what's weird. According to this girl, the person that actually picked her up, which is a different name than Eric Grower, told her that he picked up Maddie and Kaylee that night. And that's why it's like, no, he must have been confusing it with the night before. Okay? But this is the game telephone. But at the very least, when somebody would be saying this to you, you would definitely need to check on it, because it could potentially, like who really picked them up? Was it this person? But the way that this is being written, it would definitely make you go down and figure it out. So, Blank went home at the blank house and was hanging out with some friends. The group went to blank house next door until approximately 4 a.m. before returning home and going to bed. This girl suspected someone would have been going after Kaylee or Mogan and ran into Xana and Chapin, because he asked, what do you think happened? He said that Xana and Chapin were not big drug people and said that she had not seen them use blank. She stated that Colonel, and then it was redacted. This girl said blank may be a primary source of blank of U of I campus and dated Colonel at some point. And this is the girl that basically outs, hey, you want to talk to this guy, and this is who the drug dealer is on campus. So whoever is in report 20, in my opinion, outs somebody for supplying people with drugs on campus, okay? Or Adderall or whatever. And according to this girl, this person had also been kicked out of whatever fraternity he was in. And he was not currently attending U of I. All right, so we're going to stop at report 20. And now I'll be making a mental note to say it's really important to just very simply say that there was one person that went around and told everybody that they heard a dog barking. And then somehow it grows, and we're going to get there when we go past report 20. Because then it involves, you can ask my girlfriend. My girlfriend was with me. So now let's go back to the beginning, which had been on November 21st. The whole purpose of this, going back to November 21st, 2022, why in the world would they be conducting based upon the processing of the crime scene and evidence collected? Investigators believed that at the time would have been blank. The suspect drove to the area and parked at the back of the residence. So on November 21st, their working theory was based upon the processing of the crime scene and evidence collected. Investigators believed that blank, the suspect, drove to the area and parked at the back of the residence. There is a paved parking area directly to the south that overlooks the back of the residence. On November 21st, they got tunnel vision that quickly off of what? Absurd. Within a week, and not even considering these dog barks. This is crazy. This is so crazy for me. So the suspect most likely entered the residence through a sliding glass door located on the second level and rear of the residence, and then proceeded as follows. Ready? November 21st, they're already having a working theory. After entering through the sliding glass door, the suspect walked through the kitchen area and to a set of stairs that led up to the third floor. The suspect then went up the stairs to the third floor. At the top of the stairs and directly to the left side is a door which was Kaylee's bedroom, and to the right is a short hallway that entered into a bathroom. I would not call that a hallway up there. It's just a landing area, but whatever. And so there was a bathroom, and then another door went to Mogen's bedroom. They write in black and white. Most likely, the suspect checked Kaylee's bedroom, saw it was empty, and then moved to Maddie's bedroom, where we believe both Kaylee and Maddie were asleep. This completely contradicts Kaylee saying that there's somebody here. Like, what? On November 21st, this is what they're claiming. How are you writing this? That they were asleep in Mogen's bed. The suspects unalive both of them in bed. B, then. Because they already typed this up and had Kohberger's name in it, because they wrote it up on 7/26/2023, even though this was something that they did on November 21st. So they have his name. And so I'll say Kohberger most likely went back down the stairs, walked through the second floor living room, and then down the hallway, which ended at Xana's bedroom. Why? Why would you ever go and do that? If that's your thought right then and there, then why wouldn't you go into every single room and annihilate every single person? Based on the evidence, they say. What evidence? Based on the evidence on November 21st, based on the evidence, nothing had been processed. Why are you going into Dylan's room and going through everything on November 19th? What are you talking about, man? Let's talk about the evidence. Based on the evidence, they say then. Xana was initially attacked just inside the bedroom, near the entrance. So their working theory is based on the evidence that Xana was attacked before Ethan. Based on the evidence. Bubbly Waters, who's the girlfriend of Simon. Based on the evidence, Xana was initially attacked just inside the bedroom near the entrance. Xana fought the suspect in the bedroom area and was ultimately killed on the floor of the bedroom next to the bed. Chapin, who was who we believe was asleep, was unalived in his bed. So he just sleeps through it, right? Again, my question is what evidence is that you would have by November 21st? That's why that date's really important. Why did he not open Dylan's room door? Or Dylan just keeps opening and closing her door, and she's just missing it all. He's missing her. She's missing him. Sure. Yeah. Then Kohberger left the bedroom area, walked back down the hallway, passed through the living room, kitchen, and exited through the sliding glass door, leaving the door partly opened. Kohberger then walked back to his vehicle and drove away from the area. And this would have to ignore everything you'd be ignoring. Then what's going on Walenta and the dog barks. So it's just A, B, and C. That's what they have. Okay. So I write, Dylan said that Kaylee went to bed at 4 a.m. And so then she went to bed. Heard her say someone was here. Do you not believe Dylan then? Because that would mean that Kaylee is not asleep, you idiot. Like, this is how I'm writing these questions down because this is how you would go about attacking this on cross-examination. Then they go on to say, okay, Idaho State Police Detective Jeff Talbot and MPD Corporal Brett Payne assisted with the timed runs. Why? And so this is the question, which would be, is this, ready for this part? Why do you need to do timed runs if that's just the case, right? What you just said there. Why do you need to have timed runs? Think about it. Why does it matter? Why are you even doing timed runs? Who cares? Who cares, right? Because the evidence doesn't support what you're doing. That's why you have to try to do this. You have to try to do this because there's evidence actually out there that you have at the time of November 21st that is screaming something totally different, isn't there? Ready? So Detective Talbot walked through the residence with me, calling out the number of strikes to simulate the number of wounds to each victim based on autopsy reports. Okay. So on 11/21, you have a copy of the autopsies. Okay. Did you ask the ME about this working theory? Where's that report, huh? You talking to the ME. Oh, that comes way down the road. And that comes way later, right? So the main question is, what did you know on or by 11/21? What was the evidence? 1112 cam, the dog barking, the interviews with the roommates, phones of the deceased, health data. The question is in this report, you are not saying what you know or what evidence. This is such a vague statement to say. When you say, based upon the processing of the crime scene. The processing of the crime scene doesn't, what did it tell you at that point? And evidence collected. Processing of the crime scene means to completion of the lab. I mean, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? There's other people's blood on these walls. Like, how can you even write this shit up? On November 21st, only thing that you have back is that you have one person's touch DNA that you don't even know who it belongs to. And it's like, why did you even process the sheath again if you didn't like? Why did you process the sheath for a second time, you idiots? Why? For what purpose? Okay, so then he says, I conducted 2 timed runs, the first being a quick as possible run and the second a slower, deliberate timed run. I said, how many times were you in the home prior to this? Did you do these timed runs? During the first trial one, I say, oh, wait, let me back up. Were the lights on or off when you did your trial time runs? During the first trial run, I began at the rear of the residence and came through the sliding glass door. I then quickly moved through the kitchen and up the stairs. I looked into the bedroom to the left and then moved down the hall and into Mogan's bedroom. I simulated the number of strikes that were inflicted upon Mogan and Kaylee. Are you kidding me? Well, at that time, so on November 21st, what did you think was done to Kaylee on that date? Don't you think you would run it by the ME about everything that went on with Kaylee? Because I'll tell you this, guess who attended the autopsies? None of these people that were there for this timed run. So wouldn't you want somebody like, I don't know, Detective Vargas, who actually wrote up the report about everything that had happened at the autopsies, right? Isn't that something that you would probably want to be consulting with on this timed run on November 21st? I'm just saying, like, I would think so, right? And then you would be wanting to use her report because she typed. When did she write up that report? Did you even have access to that? So why did you think it mattered why did you think that time mattered even? That you'd have to time it? That should tell us everything we need to know right there. Why did you think that you needed to time the run of the kills? On the November 21st, why would you guys all sit around and say, listen, we are going to need to time this because what? Because you knew something. You knew something was like, fuck, like, we got a problem. Why you would ever think that you need to time this up on November 21st to me tells me my answer to whatever the fuck y'all are doing. You guys don't need to see Lana. She's invisible. She's behind the curtain. How anybody thinks that they could time run this and that it was that pertinent, right? It tells me everything. During the first trial run, I began at the rear. Okay, I just said that. Detective Talbot counted and kept track in an attempt to recreate the movements and motions believed to have occurred based on the evidence collected in autopsy reports. Do you understand that? What did you use? Like, you would need a crime scene reenactments expert. Listen to what they say they did. Detective Talbot, and let me tell you how much would have went into this. Ask Scott Roeder. Detective Talbot counted and kept track in an attempt to recreate the movements and motions. You would have to have a blood spatter expert. You know how much time? They didn't even have anybody like that then. What are they talking about? Who recreated the cleanup when you guys found the latent print that was on the ground by Dylan's door? How did that, work in your little bullshit here? I moved out of the bedroom, down the stairs, through the living room, down the hallway, and into Xana's room. Again, with the assistance of Detective Talbot, Gilbertson, he, saying, I simulated the number of strikes that were inflicted upon Xana and Chapin, and then exited back down the hallway, through the living room, through the kitchen, and out the sliding glass door. Corporal Brett Payne reported a time of approximately 1 minute and 30 seconds on the quick as possible time run. Holy shit! 1 minute and 30 seconds on the dot. Oh my God. Okay. So then, wow. Then he said on the second run, he was slower and deliberate. I followed the same path through the residence, but at a much slower, methodical pace. I again entered through the rear sliding glass door, opened it slowly to make no noise while doing so. I then walked as quietly as I could through the kitchen and up the stairs, attempting to make no noises, which is clearly opposite of everything, right? I looked into the first bedroom and then slowly moved down the hallway and into Mogan's bedroom. Detective Talbot counted and kept track again as I recreated the movements and motions believed to have occurred inside the bedroom. Again, it's opposite of what Dylan said, right? Attempting to make no noises up and down those stairs. It's opposite of what Dylan was saying. I exited the bedroom, moved back down the stairs, through the living room, down the hallway, and into Cornetto's room. The movement in Cornetto's bedroom was slower than the first run, but still somewhat quick. I again simulated the movements and motions that took place inside Cornetto's bedroom. Ridiculous. I then exited back down the hallway, through the living room, through the kitchen, and out the sliding glass door. Corporal Brett Payne reported a time of approximately 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Okay, 2 minutes and 33 seconds. So we can get this done 1 minute and 30 seconds. And a slower, methodical, 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Okay. Then he says, we additionally walked through simulated paths that Kohberger may have possibly taken from the vehicle to the back of the residence. The shortest and most direct path going from the parking area and moving east to west along the back of the house took approximately 30 seconds. A second path starting at the southern edge of the property and walking a fence line through some trees and moving in a south to north direction towards the back of the house took approximately 1 minute. The times to make the same two paths at a running pace were approximately 6 to 7 seconds for the shorter path and then 10 to 12 seconds for the longer path. Oh my God. Okay. So we added everything together. The time runs revealed that it was possible for Kohberger. This is why but on November 21st, they needed to see if this was possible. Why? So the time runs revealed that it was possible for Kohberger to have carried out the murders in as few as 2 minutes and 6 seconds. 2 minutes and 6 seconds. And that's counting getting out of his vehicle, in and out. 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Everything. That means out of his vehicle, in the house, doing everything in the house, leaving the house, and getting back to his vehicle. 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Have these people absolutely lost their fucking minds? Going at a fast pace on the shortest route to the vehicle, or as much as 3 minutes and 45 seconds going at a slower pace on a longer route. I mean, wow. Do you understand what Dylan said? Dylan said by the time that she heard it all from beginning to end was 10 to 20 minutes. From when she first heard something to the I'm here to help you. Where's that? Did you recreate that? Here, I'm here to help you. This is the lead investigator, okay? And then Ann Taylor's over here. Yes, Ann Taylor's over here like, did you record any of this? No. You didn't record it? You didn't record any of this. So you guys, let me get this straight. You guys just went over to the house, got in there. I shouldn't even say you unlocked the house, right? On November 21st. You're still going there to like take pictures and stuff well after the 21st because you processed the scene again. Like you're going there to get more stuff multiple times after that. But on the 21st, you go to the back of the house and you're like, okay, we're here. We're in the back area here. Ready? This is what we're going to do. Payne, you stand right here at the car. And you got to clock us first. Well, right when we basically clock us when we're walking into the house, clock us. Like you'd have to talk to each other and explain how you're doing this, right? There would have been like an understanding of how this was going to be. And then you're going to stop the clock watch when you see us at the slider, right? Versus just like somebody that would actually be like wearing a watch just to hit like the start and stop, like whatever. Yeah. And they just say, we're not going to film any of this though. And then it just says, this concluded the simulated time runs through the residence. So you tried this on November 21st for the first time, right? Okay. Did you obtain any more information between November 21st and let's say, I don't know, July of 2025? Did you obtain any new information between November 21st when you did this until July of 2025? Well, yeah. Okay. So you didn't use any of the new information that you would have, known about between November 22nd of 2022 until July of 2025. You didn't say, hey, we should go and recreate that again with more information that we have. I mean, we didn't need to. Oh, okay. Why? Yeah, right. Get the fuck out of here. How dumb is this? This is so stupid. I would just love that. Love to cross-examine whoever the fuck did this. So these are my questions. You did this on 11/21/2022, correct? Okay. You never tried this again based off of more info? Didn't you receive more information after 11/21/2022? And nothing that you received after that you thought would be pertinent to whatever the fuck y'all did on the 21st. Why'd you guys bother doing anything after the 21st? How about what was the reasoning that you needed it to fit in some type of time frame? What was that reasoning for? Yeah, exactly. Bye. But this is going to be perfect. We're going to stop here. Is Outcast in here? What up, buddy? Outcast, all I got to say is metadata on the new release videos has a timestamp on the file name, the camera out to November 21st. All I can say is if this is the same day they did the test, it's alarming to me. Hell yeah, it is. Woo! Yeah. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Outcast. What is up? How are you? I saw that. I wanted to. What is up? Yes, November 21st is the day that they did this drag run. Yeah, this is all bullshit. So wait, what are you saying about the metadata on the 21st? I might have to go back and read that. So yeah, they say that this was done on November 21st. But I've packed this with a lot of information. And I kind of want to stop right here. I think this is a good place to stop. Because I started where I wanted to start, which was, hey, you guys remember that report that was written up? And it was about this timed run. Well, why would you even be doing timed runs? Why would that ever even be occurring to even do on November 21st? Okay. And there was a reason, and they won't, and I know what the reason is, but they're not, and they know what the reason is. And yet they're avoiding the elephant in the room by just totally ignoring the fact of the matter is that on November 21st, why did you even think that you needed to have this done in some ridiculously fast time? Why would you even think that? that you even have to concern yourself that this is because we have to have that car be the murder car coming and going. That's why. That's blatant. Exactly why. And this is it. That car is going to be what we're going to be saying is the murderer arrived in that car and left in that car. Well, why? Why do you think that that's what it has to be? You're ignoring. You guys didn't even get into the. Do you understand on November 21st, they didn't even have the deceased's phones. They weren't even into them yet. They weren't even downloaded yet to be able to get in to see what any of their steps look like. Anything that's going on in their phones. But guess what? November 21st, when did they talk to Molly? When they even know about that? They didn't even know there was a DoorDash. November 21st. Or did they? How would you know about a DoorDash? All lies. We're gonna figure it out though. Let me go back here where I stopped up. I said, William, $10. Thank you so much. Finally caught alive. Love how thorough you are and your humor. Yeah, man, we got to be thorough on this. Like this stuff is. They weren't. November 21st tells you that they were tunnel vision as hell. And they were going to use what, I mean, they had they had Bethany and Dylan's phones. Oh, Tomorrow's Land. 582. Knock ho ho ho. Ooh, hold on, I need to hold on a second. Let me see if I can find doing a we got one that's over there. Or this where's my it's in that drawer over there to the right, all the way. Underneath the pull that one. Yeah, underneath the Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. We're scratching off you guys know it's this Roblox stuff. We got a gift card here. Can't even see what these letters are on the back of these Roblox gift cards. You know how many times I punch them in wrong? Way too often. A Q looks like an O. Ridiculous. Okay. So hang tight 1 second. I just had to punch something in for. Okay. All back. Okay. So thank you for that. Angel Heart, what's up? Super sticker, baby. Oh, back to back. Look at that. Move out. Bitch, get out the way. Beautiful. Super sticker. Christina, welcome. Been a member for 2 months. Thank you, Lana. I appreciate all you're doing, and I love your brain. Oh, that's very kind. Mark, what is up? Says, we so need the phones. Oh, yep. It feels like this cover up started early and every witness seems polluted. Well, I'll tell you what's interesting about the phones with this whole timing stuff is that the deceased phones were not able to be even looked at until past November 29th because they were downloaded, and that's when it, like the chain of custody coming back. And that's when Maury writes up his report and says that I'll get to the extractions when I can. But he finally had just even received the phones back and got the downloads. So thank you so much there, Mark. Sarah, I've tried to follow, but now so confused. Lana, can you explain your guess on the fuck happened? Well, we're going back to the beginning. And the reason we're going back to the beginning is because the timeline that we've been given, it gets blown up, in my opinion, by the reports and everything to do with the dog barking. It was tried to be portrayed to everybody that the dog barks were all Murphy. And that came from one person only, in my opinion. That was Simon G. And he called the police right away that next day and wanted to tell them what he heard and what he observed. And so he knows that they have dogs, and he put all the dogs barking on on 1122 King Road. And he gave the exact time frame that there's stuff actually going on at his house at Walenta 1260, and it was actually his dogs that were barking. So I don't know what the cops were doing and how they could not realize that there was way more than one dog barking. Yeah. And everybody's afraid to talk about that, but a couple times we actually need the audio from the first 20 reports in the Idaho State Police supplementals, because it had a lot to do with the people that live in that area. And screw with whatever they're writing down. We want to hear these people talk about what was normal in that area. And, how come Idaho State Police didn't interview the Moyes? How come we just get this little blurb of Vargas, like bunch of crap? But we're going to go get the audio. We need the audio. These reports are just not the crap. Who was wearing the boots DM heard running down the stairs? The victims were found with no shoes on. Yeah. I think everything that DM heard was way earlier. Way earlier. Marianne, thank you so much. Marianne says, thank you for your hard work. Well, thank you so much for supporting everybody here, being here, being part of it. Merry Christmas to everybody, too. I love this time of year. Merry Christmas, Lana and family. Hell yeah. Oh, my God. What's up, Redacted doing Redacted? Thank you so much, Christina. Redacted doing Redacted. Rocking it. Okay. So, God, back here, I can never see him back. Let's see. So yeah, going back to some of the stuff at the beginning, because it was brought just Murphy's not barking. These girls don't even bring Murphy up. It takes on this own Murphy in the Murphy story. I mean, Murphy was walked out of that house so fast. Okay, taken to by Justin Olson, taken to. I mean, what is Gunderson thinking? Who even told Gunderson? Listen to this question. Gunderson, who instructed you to take the dog and get the dog out of there without doing any type of testing, forensically, nothing. I mean, when did the Idaho State Police even know that a dog was there? How about that question? To ask Gunderson and to ask Gilbertson and to ask Jeff Talbot on the stand. Okay, so Talbot, when did you find out that there was actually even a dog there? You know, same thing, you know, Gilbertson, like, would you have ever told that who told Gunderson to get a dog out of there? You know, like, what are you doing? Like, that's a huge, big fuck up. Huge, big fuck up. So wild. And on the stand, who's going to stand up and say, Gunderson, who told you to get the dog out of there and put the dog at a shelter? You know, remember when they're all calling around and nobody even knows about a dog? Remember all that stuff? Yeah. That does not look good. It looks very bad. Also, taking pictures in the backyard, go look again at the cameras from the body worn cam of anybody that was in that backyard. Where are there any dog prints going wild, all running through the area, like barking like crazy and running all through the backyard? Where is that? Yeah. Where are there any wet, muddy dog prints that would be in the house from the dog that was just trampling back and forth? Get out of here. Like, bye. These people have lost their minds, in my opinion. Like, they just, it's like if Karen Reed's defense team just accepted the fact that we're not going to accept the fact that the taillight that's, you know, where it's at, we're not going to accept the fact that because the taillight from Karen's car is right there where John was last dropped off, and all these witnesses saying what they said, right? But yet, like, we're not going to accept that. How come nobody thinks it's crazy with everything on the Karen Reed case? Nobody thinks it's crazy. Okay. We're not going to accept the fact that a car just hit John there and that he was laying there and nobody saw him. We're not going to accept that. I never thought about the puppy prints. Yeah, puppy dog print. Yeah, nothing. And that's why I think Ann Taylor, I even think that some of this stuff could even confuse someone like any lawyer that's going up against this, because it's Ann Taylor, it's her two other attorneys, and a couple of investigators, okay? Here we have how many people? Me and the 12,000 or 1,200 people that watch this, right? Other channels and have people watching them, all right? This is all, I mean, you know how many eyes that is working something like this out and doing, like, that's not what, and Ann Taylor wasn't given everything all at once, okay? She's over here having to dig and to ask them for stuff, and then they keep piecemealing this shit to her. And so can you imagine that after now you have to go back to the beginning again, then you have to go back to the beginning. That's the type of stuff that's just not. And so when Hitler doesn't want to give Ann Taylor more time, Ann's a little bit more reserved than I would have ever been. I would have been lighting that. Put me in contempt, motherfucker. I don't care. This is insanity. Okay. Josh Hewitt just got on the case. If he writes it up another motion saying that we shouldn't get more time, you know, he needs to shut the fuck up. He wasn't here from the beginning. Okay. He needed to come in though to clean up the mess that was Ashley Jennings and Bill Thompson. They were holding their entire case. They hid until they absolutely had to give something over. And it's just like, Judge Hitler, are you really going to ignore that fact? And then everybody wants to say it, and I'll say it too. Yeah, then why did Bryan Kohberger plead guilty? Why did he say he did it? Blah, blah, blah. Well, why is there other blood that's not Bryan in the house? I'm not Bryan Kohberger. I have no idea where the fuck Bryan Kohberger said anything. I can't answer that question. Where's Judge Hippler with his go on to the cases interest page. Judge Hippler was just ripping out these orders. We can't even, last time he's done anything, 11/13/2025, that was for the restitution stuff. The defense and the prosecution already answered this in the state response to the court's third order regarding sealed documents. The motion, what was this other one? The third order seeking parties, so that was that. It was the last time he's put out an order to unsealing or redacting and or maintaining sealed status. On 9/23/2025, he did an order. On 10/9, an order unsealing, redacted, and or maintaining sealed status of second document set was on 10/9. So he does, and then on 10/9, he asked for the party's third order, which was, I'm seeking your position for the third set of documents, okay? That was on 10/9, y'all. It is 12/12/12/13. Why is there no movement on this third set of documents? And then remember, the defense filed their response sealed. The state did not. They have theirs out there. So I've been going, I went through that or whatever. How come he doesn't have a ruling on the third set of documents? This is the longest that it's ever taken him to do anything. Where is Hippler? Where is Hippler? Well, I'm going to tell you guys what, because those documents that we were seeking in that third batch, let's put out Nick Balance's report. Let's put out Cyber Ray's report. Let's go. Like, if I just know, for me, if I was prosecuting a case, I would want all my stuff out there. Here, this is exactly what we did. This is exactly what we used. I would never want anybody to ever be possibly, not prosecuted that should be, or that was prosecuted and that shouldn't have been. And we are human. We are allowed to make mistakes. But what we are not allowed to do is conspire and do bullshit to frame people. And if you look at the the Holly Bobo case, during this time of waiting to get more documents, Zach Adams is back in the courtroom, and literally they are upending the Holly Bobo case, where the freaking prosecutor got these witnesses that were co-defendants to flip and to make up all this shit that the prosecutor handed and gave them to say because it was from the evidence, so that they could frame this dude. Like, what? Yeah, just some meth guy, so some druggie. We're just gonna, yep, he did it. Dude, the evidence doesn't support any of that shit. But then here to find out that a prosecutor, you have these witnesses now coming forward saying that were once co-defendants, saying, listen, I said what I said because she gave it all to me and I got the deal of a lifetime for it. Otherwise, I was going down just like him. And where I got all this information was I just had to add so-and-so into my day, and I had to say certain things, and I had to sell it really, really good. But how I could sell it really, really good is I had the information. I was coached by the prosecutor. That is unbelievable. That is unacceptable. That is nuts. There should never be a case that you have 120 officers working on. How do you even manage that? How does somebody manage 120 officers working on a case? Idaho4 had 120 people working on that case. How? In the Charlie Kirk case, when we just heard them say that there's potentially 3,000 witnesses, 3,000. Well, yeah, Charlie Kirk was shot in front of 3,000 people. But what about all the people that were actually watching it? Look at the Duke lacrosse prosecutor. He ruined those boys' life. Yeah, I mean, there's just like, who do these people think they are? And if we don't have trials and if we just allow plea deals, it has to stop being a normal thing that you should not be able to take a case and go 2, 3, 4 years and then have a plea deal right at the end. I'm sorry, but that should not be allowed, especially once you make a move for the death penalty. You can't use the death penalty as a bargaining chip. You just can't. You should not be able to do that. That's what they're doing. So yeah, Simon Getty should have a lot to answer to right now. Simon Getty called and said that it was 1122 King Rose dog. There was a dog that was, barking off, started at this time, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, you guys, listen to the damn tape. It's his dogs in his yard. And there's hella shit going on at 1260 Walenta, where he lived right behind the house with Matt Moyer, Tyler Moyer, Simon Getty. That's who lived there in that house. Matt Moyer walked his dog once with Kaylee. Madison Moyer, she was Pi-Fi, and she was out at the bars that night, and she was definitely underage. They're the ones that broke the news to Fox, and they were coming out and they were outspoken. But it's like, how of all people to talk to the press? Isn't that weird that it would be the people at 1260, the Moyers? They were also the ones that called the cops for the noise complaint. Come on. And then either Vargas got it so wrong, but she's over here talking about nobody leaves at 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning for any type of training. And here, the way that you read the report, she's trying to say that he worked at BW3s. And then people say, well, maybe what he meant was I went to my extensive training and then I went to BW3s and then I got home at 6:30. And I'm over here like, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. This is how a report was written so poorly. But go and show me where ROTC meets up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Show me that. I'm from the show me state, so show me that. Because even if you want to take that, why you're not starting to train at 3 o'clock in the morning? If it was extensive training, it would start maybe at 6 or 7 in the morning, let's say, and then it would just go for an extended period of time. But nowhere would I ever think that you have to leave a place at 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning to go to extensive training. There we go. So that's all we have for today. This is egregious. Turn over like the information. Charging arms and legs, firstborns. Thank you there, Lottie Dot. I think that Ann Taylor would be blown away by some of this stuff. Trust me, I saw what in the Dr. Moore case, I saw what his attorney had, that was his criminal defense attorney, had to a certain point. She had no idea, did not know anything of the stuff that I uncovered in that case. She didn't know any of it. So what we think Ann Taylor may know or may not know, we'd be actually very, very surprised. Okay? But this is all a bunch of bullshit. And they know it. That's why they all know it, guys. Trust me, they know that it's a bunch of bullshit. They're not going to hand over the bullshit. They're not going to put their asses on a platter. No, they're going to make it really, really hard to have their asses, shown for what it is. But I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining on this lovely brain work. Thank you. 28 months, girl. What is up? Silent G, member for 21 months. Show us, Hippler. Come on. Where's he been, you guys? He's just been pumping them out, right? All, boom, boom, boom. Hitler was, they played Hitler so bad. I'm going to give him grace, man. Why would you ever think that prosecutors would ever be pulling the shit that they were pulling? I'm telling you what, though, if this does not get moved out of Moscow and it's in Latah County, Judge would have been different all day. 1,000%. When somebody says something to you and you say something back to somebody, you remember that a lot more than just reading it on a piece of paper to get caught up with the case as Hitler did. Okay? Let's not start with an untruth. I'm not happy to be here. Okay? Look, right there, I would have filed right there. Bye-bye. Let's not start with an untruth. So, yep, I'm not happy to be here. What's that mean, right? Who fucking says that shit? This is your job. This is your job. I'm not happy to be here. Think about your employers and you say that to them. Yeah, let's just start. Like, I'm just not happy to be here. Like, what? However he meant that, it came across, I don't care, as dog shit. Dog shit. Like fucking 1260 dog shit over there. Those dogs were losing their minds over there at 1260 Walenta. Not Murphy. So whatever the fuck was going on and using that backyard and yeah. As if anyone there was happy to be there. I mean, if you want to go ahead and say like, it's 4 people's lives were lost, okay? But anyway you look at that, it's so bad because the defendant, maybe they are looking forward to that day and being there because I want to clear. You don't still make a comment like that. That is ridiculous. But he's so pissed at the Gonsalveses, like, dude. I hope the G's, man. I hope that they just wax them all. Show us who really WSU and the University of Idaho truly are. And I think if there's anybody out there that can do it and that would have people behind them, it would be Kaylee's family. It would be the families of the victims that all come together for once. Because I'll tell you what, throughout that whole entire, pending investigation and case and then eventual plea deal, the prosecution divided those families, and that's horseshit. They should have been able to like trauma bond. They couldn't even trauma bond, Like, damn. Don't you lie to people about how our kids were killed so that to soften the blow on why somebody would be okay with taking a plea deal. This is what happened to my kid, and you're over here lying about it. That's ridiculous. That would fire me up. If I said, okay, fine, that's fine, take the plea deal, and then come to find out that you lied to me as to what and got for me to say that is bullshit. I'm sorry, but that's just ridiculous. And then the reason there were so many versions out there and people didn't know what was going on during that case, well, I'll tell you where that all stemmed from. And Steve put it out there. He said the prosecution is leaking stuff. He didn't say the defense was leaking anything. And he kept that same path going. He's like, how does the Ann Taylor find stuff out? Why would ever Ann Taylor ask to see our communications between like us emailing anybody or our attorney emailing that they're asking for that in discovery? Why no, I put that shit out because I thought that. Oh, okay. Well, no, we don't have to. All right, guys, got to go. See you on the next one.